Flip. Flip, you bitch. I'm just gonna turn that way. See the edge? That's enough. No one needs any more of me than that. Hello, welcome to the live stream. If you're new to my live stream, this is it. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to work on crafts, listen to something on YouTube, and ignore the chat. But you're welcome to hang around, see if I hurt myself, stop by, see how things are going every once in a while, or have me on in the background as like a distraction so you don't feel as lonely as you do in life. Because that's how I'm feeling right now. Also, apparently I have something on my lung and I have something on my thyroid, so we're just trying to block that out right now. Because we don't want to think of the fact that we might be in a couple hours, years, maybe months. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is I need to make some tongues. Those things that stick out of your face. What are we going to watch? No. Sure. Let's try this one. Looks horrifying. Maybe some of these too. Oops, hello. Just me. My boring mood. What is that? That's the sewing scissors. Oh, this is not going to be fun to work with.
Is finally here. After the long and complicated ARG, we now get to find out what it was all leading to.
No, this isn't the game, right?
What do you mean?
Yeah, it's just a mini game used for the ARG.
Oh, and we're going to solve that ARG right now.
Where did it go?
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's excited to talk about a game that the second act.
Oh my, hello.
ARG is possibly the most confusing I've ever worked.
Gonna work on some things. You're welcome to hang out, stop by, say hi. I should unplug this if I'm not using it. Making more pieces and parts of things.
Coming to Steam has blown up into an intricate puzzle that gives us insight
Hello.
into the world we may be exploring once
Hi,
again.
chicken.
It's all about
Hi, Sus Trades.
Kids Media Works, or KMW, and they follow the
Oh
words
God.
of
Oh
client-side
no.
analysts
Oh, we're in it Two-Face. I'm just working on some things tonight. I have to make some more tongues for monsters, so I guess that's what I'm doing. And this is fuck.
Teaching them how to better themselves and how to tackle bullies. But after discovering an episode of the show last time, we learned that they had some.
Okay, I gotta find another one. Shit. Hello.
Like burying them in the dirt.
Oh, looks like the bots are here. Hello, bots. It's good to have you here.
Tells me it would be best
There's
to
another
go
pack of this stuff.
back.
Ah, there it is.
Needless to say,
God, we're gonna get it.
some twisted ideas
Got it.
children, but the ultimate reveal has been all about the KMW show for film.
If we're gonna make a mess, we might as well do it, right?
Shares about her childhood life.
Ah! No! It's not supposed to be this sticky. I can do this. I can do this. I've done it before. What's going on? I am actually making some tongues because I don't have any. Well, I have some. I just don't have a lot for the monsters I make. So I'm going to roll this stuff out and make little tongues for them. So when I put my monsters together, they'll have a little bit of la la la. I have lots of teeth. It's kind of a boring live stream, but you're welcome to pop in every once in a while and see how things are going. Keep me on in the background. Oh, I'm sorry. It's really hard to tell some days. Alright. Gotta make a mess. Let's make it proper. Oh, this one's nice and wet too. Goody. Oh god. Why am I using this again? Oh yes, I'm cheap. It dries pretty solid, so. Oh god. Ah, it's gonna be a minute getting it worked up. If you roll it, it will come together, but still quite sticky. Might have to leave it for a bit to get workable. There we go. Man, what are you making tongues for? Oh God, I don't even have a monster to show you. Everything is still in the car. I just got back from a convention. I make horrifying monsters out of adorable teddy bears and whatnot. And yeah, so hang on. Let me pick something up. So I'll make little mouths like this and stick them in like a teddy bear's stomach. And then I'll have the little tongue sticking out of it to make it extra horrifying. Yes, I just farted. We might have some gas today. Yeah. It's air dry clay, but it's not very good quality air dry clay. So it's fights with me a lot. It has to be worked a lot in order to get it less tacky. So we're just going to get really messy for a bit. I hope. Whoopsie. This should be on some plenty of fish shit. This is nuts. Sometimes you get a good pack and you don't have to do this with it. I could definitely see the miles in marshmallow. Don't do that. It doesn't say, well, I mean, it's kid stuff, so it should be non-toxic, but you don't want to give them the chance. All right, come on. Start coming together, you. Usually starts coming together about now. I just got myself in a fucking mess. So what you been up to today? Tomorrow's Monday, isn't it? Yeah. I think garbage goes out tonight, so I gotta get on that eventually. Okay. It's usually coming together by now, so. It's just old? Is it just that why it's not working? I shouldn't be this tired. I went and I had a CT. See, I don't have a doctor right now, so I was having some issues, so I got a CT scan in November of last year. And nobody reached out, so I assumed, okay, maybe, you know, if there was something on the CT scan, they'd let me know. You would assume anyway, yeah? Thank you. So I assumed, yeah, there'd be something, they'd get a hold of me, right? If they saw something on the CT scan. Well, didn't get a hold of me. That was like 6 months ago. Like I said, it was November when I got the scan done. And so I have my regular doctor for my colitis. So when I saw him for my regular checkup, and I mentioned how I got a CT scan. And he's like, oh. So he brings it up because he can see it on my file. And he starts reading and he's like, fibroid uterus and pulmonary. I'm like, fibroid uterus? And I shouldn't have cut him off because I should have just let him kept talking to see what was on it. What time is there? It is 8:24 right now. And yeah. So he, if you have problems, you can go see the gynecologist if it's bothering you. And I'm like, well, that would have been nice to know 20 years ago. Then I hummed and hawed about it for a week because he said pulmonary, and I looked that up. He said pulmonary before, you know, he stopped talking about it. And so pulmonary is usually a lung problem. So that's concerning. But like the most common one is asthma, apparently. So I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. So I stress about it for about a week, right? I'm like, okay, I have to go to outpatients and bite the bullet, spend the time, wait and see a doctor. So I went in, I saw the nurse practitioner, and she goes over the results with me. And she said, they're not over, I have nodules on my lung, apparently. Dear God. And something on my thyroid. I completely forget about my uterus by now. So I don't, like I said, don't have a doctor. So she refers me down to the primary care clinic. And she's like, it'll be 2 to 3 weeks before they call you, right? You're probably the only one watching this. It goes up and down. I think people just kind of stagger in here randomly. So this was like on Wednesday. I see the nurse practitioner. And she's like, it'll be 2 to 3 weeks before they get a hold of you. The next day, primary care calls me. So I'm freaking out. And she's like, you should see or go on Maple and talk to one of the doctors on there. So I go home after work that day and log into Maple, and of course it's closed because it's just business hours for like the full care doctor. So I'm like, fine. So next morning, 8 o'clock, wake up, get on that wait, and I think it's about a 2-hour wait, so it wasn't too bad. This lovely doctor comes on. She was absolutely divine to talk to. Completely forgot about my uterus, but I still haven't got that sorted out. And she's like, you have some nodules on your lung. We're not overly concerned about, they look benign. So she scheduled me for a CT scan next November. So they're just gonna keep an eye on it every year to make sure nothing changes. The thyroid, however, they are unsure because they couldn't get a clear enough shot or image with the CT scan. So she set a referral in for a, whatchamacallit. You know, the pregnant one you get. An ultrasound for my thyroid, for my neck. I think that's what she said. It was an ultrasound. It could be something else out there kind of scan. And she said it would be 2 to 3 weeks for that. And if I don't hear from anybody in 2 to 3 weeks, to reach out and see what the fuck is happening. Because she did put an ASAP on it. And if it is something not really good on my thyroid, that would explain my mood the last probably 6-8 months. Because my mood has gone from like, oh my god, everything's miserable, why am I alive, to, oh, today's a beautiful day. I think I'm gonna have cereal for supper tonight, and I'm gonna go for a walk. Like, my mood has improved so much in the last 8 months. So I know I should have realized that there was something wrong with my thyroid. Because you just don't suddenly enjoy being alive. You don't just suddenly be happy. Alright, finally getting somewhere. But yeah, so that has been my stress for the bit, but I'm also not stressed because of whatever I think is on my thyroid affecting my mood, because your thyroid really affects your mood. So I'm like, I'm gonna die. I think I'll make French toast. That sounds like a great idea tonight. Like, I'm worried about, I know I should be worried. I'm just not as worried as I think I should be. Does that make sense? Oh, bye. I don't know when you left, but thanks for staying. But yeah, so that is my last week or so. And I just got done at a little Comic-Con convention. And I have to get ready for the next one, which is in the city week after next. So should be exciting. Oh, and I think I found a 3D printer for my horn, so that'll be exciting. Oh, I wonder if they can print me tongues. I mean, this is fine. Like, I do like this because I can adjust the sizes. But sometimes it gets, like I said, a little messy. Excuse me, wearing whose skin? But yeah, so that's my my drama in a nutshell. Okay. That took a long time to get it start behaving. See how it's behaving a lot better now? It's not sticking to everything like glue. Yeah, so that's a pain in the ass, but it got done. Let me use this, because this is what I got. There we go. I'll just make a bunch of tongues. Oh, still a little sticky. Might need a few more minutes to dry out a bit more. There we go. Now, I don't like wasting parts, so I have the back of this skull, right? Like, what can I do with this? It's not exactly interesting. So I would take this, I would paint the whole thing black, and then I would add like eyeballs all on the inside, and like teeth all around the edges, and then find a teddy bear and insert this face into that. Like him. And I would just hollow out his face, and he would just have a hole with teeth and fangs in him. So that is the plan for what I'm going to do with that. I just need to figure out how to make this sticky. Come on, hurry up. No, working it too much. But yeah, anyway, so that's my health update. I'm still not done setting up my garden. I'm like weeks behind at this point. Like there's no point in me putting in a garden. But I can get the strawberries done. Hopefully tomorrow after work. And then I can just build the squash bed, fix the other 2 beds. And I should be... oh, everything came up. I checked everything today, and everything in my garden had come up, so I'm very happy about that. Alright, so you want to get a forked tongue? Nope, not that. That's easy. She says, and then is suddenly unable to do it. It sticks. Everything sticks right now. So in general, if you want to make a forked tongue, you roll out a snake with 2 points. And then you fold it in half. And then you have forked tongue. And then you just let that dry. It will take a couple of days to dry, but once this stuff dries, it's really pretty hard. I'm going to have to put that there. And sometimes I'll do like these double-ended ones, because then I can cut them short, because these are too long for the mouth. And then I will have pointy tongue and a rounded tongue. God damn it, stop sticking. There we go. I got all these little bits in my nail now, and every time they catch, they stick and pull. There we go. Thank you guys for the thumbs up. I know it's kind of a boring live stream, but you popping in to take a peek always makes my day. Yeah, the next convention I'm going to be is at the Halifax Body Art Convention down at the Lighthouse Center. I should really find out sooner rather than later. But then you get a nice tongue with a... My crafty mind, like I want to make each one individual, but I also know that I need like 15 dozen of these. So, and every monster is going to be different. I need to stop overthinking everything, because if everyone's different, then everything is still going to be the same. Does that make sense? Anyway. Let's see. Okay, adding water is not the answer. It will help smooth, but it's gotta be drier than this. Do. So how was everyone's weekend? Did you get through it in one piece? You didn't run off screaming into the distance?
If they break down and cry because they've lost their caregiver, you sacrifice them. If they go down the path of Eric Erickson and stop crying, they become part of the cult. After this interaction with the NPC, the game resets and you can complete it as normal. But instead of the townspeople cheering for Elliot, he is alone and confused. Suddenly, the game glitches out and the text box begins to show a bunch of numbers. And I mean a lot of numbers. We haven't seen this guy in a while. A polybius square cipher. Basically, a substitution cipher where each letter in a message is replaced with its corresponding coordinates within a 5x5 grid. Man, Giggleland really requires you to know every cipher in the book, and I am here for it. Once decoded, we get the following message. Quote, you have to get out of here. They're going to do something to her. If he takes her, we'll never see her again. You two need to leave quickly. Pack your things and head out with K, C, and M. They'll be waiting for you near the back of the barn at 1 a.m. I wish I could protect you, but they will. T keeps watching me. He senses my fear. If I go, he'll follow. I'll keep him.
Ooh, crochet.
However long it takes. Raise her to have a
Crochet things do you make?
supposed to be a family again. I don't know when, but we will. I love you. This her has to be Sarah. We know that Debbie had a child while in the commune.
I tried knitting one time. It didn't end well. I don't know if crochet would be easier with the one, but I'm doubtful because
Sarah's father that we learned about right at the end of Act
I don't do, other than sewing, I find everything, like, sewing I find knitting very complicated. I don't know if crochet would be any better.
Maybe they'd sacrifice her like all the other children, which is why she is overprotective of Sarah now, stopping her from going outside because of what could happen if she's found. But we are nowhere near done with this game or the secrets it holds. One of the other rare items is a flower that, when given to the horse in the first village, triggers some new dialogue. She claims the flower has special properties, like how we use aloe when we cut ourselves, or lavender to help us when we're sad. But this flower is good for young people because, quote, someone or something has to keep them in line. So is this some kind of hallucinogenic flower? Something to calm the kids down and make them more agreeable? Are they using it to change the way the kids think so that the kids who join the cults can be brainwashed? Either way, now that we know about each rare item, we can get a new ending. By getting the flower and the blanket, giving them to the NPCs, and then completing the game, you'll be transported to a farm. Talking to the farmer,
There we go.
he thanks Elliot for all the help.
Huzzah, isn't this exciting?
Some seeds need to be planted, and we must ensure they grow properly. He asks Elliot to bring the seeds to him, that they may be purified from the evil sorcerer. Now, maybe it's just my religious upbringing. The phrases relating to the work not being done, and that there are seeds to sow and walk be harvested, feel very religious to me. And with the guy running the farm being
Religious and cults are just the same thing. One is socially acceptable.
Aren't literal seeds. They're the thing that this cult, the KMW, are obsessed with. Children, young plants that haven't yet fully developed. They need to be raised to be happy, and it's up to Elliot to bring those children to Mr. T so he can purify them. And given all of the Aztec stuff we talked about today, I have a feeling purify doesn't mean giving them a bath. Elliot is bringing the children to Mr. T to be sacrificed. But if Mr. T is
Come on.
the Terry, the cult leader, who is Elliot supposed to be? Who is the accomplice of Terry and his crazy messed up rituals? Well, the answers are hiding in the one ending we haven't tried out yet. If you're skilled enough and can finish the 2D side-scroller without taking any damage, you can achieve the hitless ending. Instead of it ending like usual, interacting with the sign to move to the
Everything's sticky again, damn it.
This portal triggers a glitch. You are told player entity failed to register incoming damage. Debugging required. Issue persists across multiple instances. Please investigate using the dev build. Giggleland_dev_build_9213 part Z. This is our next step to solving the puzzle frame. friends. There is even more to this game than we already played, and this is where the questions we've been asking can be answered. What are they doing the sacrifices for? Where does Sarah fit into all this? And who is Elliot? Access the dev builds, not easily anyway. There are breadcrumbs that lead us to where it might be hiding.
Hi guys, thanks for stopping in.
Everything. But that is all gonna have to wait till
Making
next
some
time. So make sure to
tongues.
subscribe so you see that video when it comes out in a couple of weeks. And as always, theorists, remember, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
There we go.
Ziploc Freezer Pack's exclusive 9-point protection helps keep your stellar treats from becoming unidentified frozen objects. For the love of food, Ziploc.
Let go. Let go. Let go. God damn it.
My rider and Tim's menu. Try my new scrambled eggs loaded breakfast box. With children.
Come on.
The lore! I have to show you the lore! Hello, Internet. Welcome.
Oh my god, how come every time I end up in the back rooms? Hang on a second. I need something bitter. There we go. Something lighter, something. Everybody move. There we go.
Created by indie filmmaker Kane Pixel. The initial video Kane uploaded in January of 2022 absolutely.
Once I put enough layers of paint, no one's going to notice it. I hope.
All thanks to its unique atmosphere, clever scares, and fantastic production quality. It was also built for theorists like us, filled to the brim with awesome ideas and hidden lore for us to discover.
Wow, you guys are hanging on tonight. Good to have you around. I know it's kind of boring, but yeah, I appreciate you. If you could be so kind as to slap that thumbs up before you head out for the night. And then tomorrow, I hope you have a survivable Monday.
Kane, I went to the back rooms. I got you this. I'm just so honored to be accepting this. So I guess really the only thing I can say right now is thank you. But now, here we are, 1 year later from that initial upload. Now with a story that spans 4 decades of time and 15 videos, plus a few secret videos mixed in. The community has come up with a ton of ideas to explain this thing. Everything from alternative realities colliding to the backrooms being an incarnation of the ancient Egyptian afterlife. Our running theory here is that the world that we see in the backrooms is some sort of simulation, a giant video game or Matrix. What we know of as the real world is the topmost layer of that simulation. Below the surface, there's an infinite procedurally generated world of unused and cut content. Stuff that either didn't fit or just wasn't good enough to make the cut for the real world.
In that case, who is building the game? Alright, let's go find a different game theory. Because I've heard this one 5 or 6 times before. Let's try that one. Nutty Butter lore. That sounds great.
Hello, once again, theorists. Welcome to Santi Reviews. Today, we're reviewing the scariest branded social media of all time. You've probably never heard of it. It's called Nutter Butter. Here we go. Oh my gosh, so creepy. I'm so creeped out. Butterfly! Come on, is this really what it takes to go viral nowadays?
Okay, if it's stuck that way, I don't care.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Food Theory, where there's no nut I can't
My
crack.
uterus.
Now, there comes a point
My fibroid uterus.
career where one overly convoluted franchise or ARG appears out of the tall grass to test that theorist's grip on reality. Game theory has that, film theory
Alright.
has whatever Book of Bill is cooking up, and now it's my turn. My turn to slowly start to unravel at the seams, trying to figure out just what in the ever-loving multiverse is going on with Nutter Butter. Yep, looks like the arch nemesis of my tenure is gonna be a cookie I used to trade for Gushers at recess. For the uninitiated, Nutter Butter's social media team has made some, let's say, strong choices. Instead of posting dated cookie memes like Oreo, lazy, breezy, branded collabs like Keebler, or even good old-fashioned food corn like Chips Ahoy, Nutter Butter chose violence. Psychological warfare. Sure, some of it is just random abstract imagery, but this is a crime scene. These are the sort of photos you'd find in a serial killer beginner's guide to murder kit. Who, bro. And oh my god, there's more. There's so much. And apparently, it's my job to make sense of all of this. Because guess what? Amidst all this peanut butter smut, there's lore. No, really, there's actually a whole hidden story about a creepy mascot, a parallel universe, and for some reason, the name Aiden, repeated over and over and over. Oh, and over. What does this all mean? Well, if my research is correct, we're at the precipice of an interdimensional invasion, and the fate of our world rests in the hands of, you guessed it, Aiden, the Nutter Butter Messiah. Don't start cheering for him yet, though, because he might be the reason we're doomed in the first place. So theorists consider November officially over because we're about to solve the Nutter Butter ARG, and it is nothing but nut. The first thing we'll need to do to make sense of all of this Nutter Butter TikTok clutter is start at the beginning.
Nutter Butter TikTok clutter. Clever.
Bitten by whatever radioactive social media intern came up with this brain rot. Easier said than done, because Nutter Butter's social media accounts have been working on this nonsense for years, even if most of us are just hearing about it now. To start things off, a lot of the chaotic energy of what would be considered Nutter Butter canon was just the natural evolution of an ordinary brand account throwing internet trends at the wall to see what stuck, which you'd think would be easy because, you know, peanut butter. Here's them cashing in on the Versailles Run meme in 2021, and here's them hopping onto that 2022 doubloon TikTok trend. BT does.
I missed the doubloon TikTok trend independently.
I bring up these old posts because scattered among that standard brand social media fare, you'll find the elements of the Nutter Butter ARG germinating, like this 2022 deep fried Instagram post, or this 800,000 viewed video from 2021. In it, they simply plop a cookie into a glass of water. Now, I know that might seem gross and also not important, but let me tell you, it is, and it'll all make sense soon. For now, though, let's focus on this post here. Posted to TikTok on January 11th of 2023, this ear-grating slideshow is more or less ground zero and the genesis of the ARG. With a distorted version of Calvin Harris's Summer playing in the background, this grainy slideshow ends with a pile of Nutter Butters and the name Aiden overlaid on top. At this point, you're probably asking the same thing the whole internet was asking back in 2023. Nutter Butter, you good? And if you're named Aiden, you might also be asking, is that cookie account talking to me? Well, sorry, Aidens, but no. Nutter Butter was actually talking to one very specific Aiden. You see, back before the ARG got traction, a very real person named Aiden made it his mission to comment his name on every single Nutter Butter Instagram post. So that's the short answer to who Aiden is. Now, this OG Aiden actually does end up becoming a vital part to the Aiden that's now at the center of the ARG, but I do need to stress, first and foremost, he is a real-life human guy and not a character. So please don't go looking for him and harass him about the ARG, especially because all of this wacky analog horror evolved from the social media managers jokingly acknowledging his presence. But it blew up, and Nutter Butter had almost no choice but to run with it. We started getting all sorts of unsettling videos like Nutter Butters being drowned in peanut butter then crushed to bits, or random animations of a helicopter labeled Nut Force 1, wild name by the way, airdropping a Nutter Butter kaiju. During this era, a few post archetypes emerged. First, there was the wet Nutter Butters, like their 2021 post. Nutter Butter started to get a lot of mileage out of soaking the cookies in water. They even had the unholy thought of turning them into ice cubes. Then there was a trend of everyday objects slathered up in peanut butter. Homework, watches, key cards, and, oh, you know, babies. If I had to see it, so do you.
Yeah, I remember the baby.
Stepping on Nutter Butters or peanut butter. That's where the nasty crock comes in. Oh god, why are we watching it again? Editor, I said in the script not to show it. See, it's right there. In any case, this was all definitely interesting, but seemingly random. At first glance, all I saw were the peanut butter slather memes of a desperate corporate social media man. But with each steady scroll, a pattern.
See, they go in here.
And those images quickly became a lot more interesting and a
So,
lot less
yeah.
random. Especially when I noticed that
And
there
it
were
had, like, the
loads
tongue
more
sticking out there.
pictures of
Yeah.
Aiden appearing. Of the Aiden posts, this one would eventually set the greater story.
Oh, there we go.
in
They're starting to dry now.
motion.
Easier to
It was a
touch.
simple food trend video intercut with an old Nutter Butter commercial from the 70s. But as it goes on, it gets distorted, and the name Aiden pops up more. This old Nutter Butter commercial is the key to the ARG, and its audio gets sampled repeatedly. In the ad, a young boy on the playground is approached by the Nutter Butter Man, the mascot that gives Willy Wonka with a court mandate to not step within 500 feet of a schoolyard. But here he is showing a young boy his filling while singing a jingle. Spoilers, but this Nutter Butter Man is the villain of this 3-arc ARG. Over the course of 2023, the Nutter Butter Man's
I like to do an
presence
ARG,
slowly
but
crossed
I'm
the
not
Nutter
smart
Butter
enough to
social
solve
media
one,
account.
so I don't think I would be
I'm
able
calling
to
the
make
first
a decently
contact
entertaining
mark.
one.
First, we get a post telling us that we've been visited by him.
Although I do have an idea for one.
Unclear, with a caption telling us that he is
Which is like the same,
Then
you're
his
walking
face
down the
appears
same,
with a
like,
touch of
forest
spoon
path,
and an amount of peanut butter. Aside
and
from this eerie meal,
the
though,
script
this
is all
also
audio,
has a code
but it's
across the
obviously
top.
not uploaded at the
This
same
here is a
time.
Legionnaire cipher. And by using the keyword Aiden,
Or in
the
order.
text translates to
But
Aiden needs you now more than ever.
it's a murder
The
mystery.
Instagram post has a Nutter Butter Man watching us through an attic with the caption, "He sees you." And looky there, another Legionnaire cipher on the roof. This one translates to, "Is anyone there?" The Nutter Butter Man then starts showing up through glitchy video recordings and dimly lit hallways. And to make it even worse, you have this caption, "Make no mistake,
XL refreshers. Do it
Yep.
feels fresh.
Never intended to hang out this long. Oh, what time is it? Hang on, I gotta call my mommy. Do not call my mommy, she will call me. Alright, Timu. I don't have time for Timu. I must call my mommy, mommy.
Of course I did.
Call. Calling my mommy.
hey, this was always part of the plan." If Batman and my middle school nightmares taught me anything, it's never trust a clown. While the details of this plan are about
Hi,
as
Mom.
vague as the rest of the Nutter Butter account, it's
Yep.
clear to me that during this first contact arc, neither we, the audience, nor the Nutter Butter Man know where Aiden is exactly. And the mystery to his whereabouts is a
No, I think I got,
really
2 weeks. So not this week, not next week, but the next one.
text that this is not a game. And that video included a
No, I thought it was next week.
translates to where
And I think I got another. I'm so confused.
So, congratulations, Aiden.
I think I better.
Yeah, good
Now,
idea.
that
You
braille
did pretty
post
good though
reveals
up there.
a new bit of
Yeah, I did pretty good.
This fever dream
It wasn't too bad. It was definitely slower than the last couple of years, so.
transcend worlds.
Yeah, but,
Yes,
you know,
it's
you did
painfully
well.
annoying
Yeah.
that crawling down this rabbit
Yeah,
hole gives
I got
us more
lucky.
questions and answers. But luckily,
Okay,
and
here's the
this
boards
might
on
be
the
the
back,
first time in
and I'll
human
bring 'em
history
in
that
the-
anyone has said this.
Thanks, Mom. I'll see if I can get the bed done tomorrow after work.
Put all of this into perspective.
So
You see,
keep
this
it
isn't the
that way
first
so
time that
it
Nutter
doesn't
Butter has
bump.
mentioned
Yeah.
the multiverse. Way back at the start of the ARG, we were
That's
treated to
how-
this slideshow on TikTok. This upload combined some of the accounts
Tonight and tomorrow night we're supposed to get the Northern Lights.
all of which fold into the larger
Yeah.
narrative. This
I
post
will.
here
Well,
is the
somebody else will take better pictures. I'll look at those.
details of the story.
Yeah, I
The
know,
post
we
in question
go,
has
come
everything.
back.
The Nutter Butter Man,
Back.
horseshoe hyperfixations,
Okay.
weird fetish
I'll talk
for
to you
really
tomorrow
young
then.
yums.
Alright, good night, Mom. Love you.
Night.
Here's the big
Night,
one.
night.
According to the very last slide,
It's my
there's an
mommy.
alternate dimension where peanut butter replaces water. The operative word there is replaces. It's not an alternate dimension where water is peanut butter. No, this is a world where water was turned into peanut butter. With this piece, the rest
I'm
of the
sorry, I
puzzle
missed peanut butter?
slowly clicks together. Suddenly, it makes
Alright.
sense why there were so many posts with soggy cookies. These posts weren't just gross, they're attempts at replacing the water with nut water. Nutty water. There's no version of this that sounds good.
There isn't.
Further, there's this image of the planet with peanut butter being poured into its core, as if this is the current state of the world within the Nutter Butter mirrorverse. Then we have an image of a Nutter Butter walking.
Yeah, get in there.
When this image was
Much
originally
left.
posted on Instagram, it
I
was
know,
captioned
thrilling.
as a secret gift, which
Try to
is
contain
French
yourself,
and
guys.
long for please. Taking what we've been shown so far, this is a depiction of the interdimensional Nutter Butter, and it's requesting access to our universe. Sort of a vampire scenario where he needs to be invited in. While it might not look like much, this seemingly harmless interdimensional Nutter Butter is the Nutter Butter Man. Think about it. This gives us a motive. The Nutter Butter Man wants Aiden because for some reason, Aiden is the key to getting into our world. Through Aiden, he can turn our salty oceans to salty peanut butter, terraform our land into cookies. Basically, the Nutter Butter Man wants to make Earth into a giant Nutter Butter. That's the plan. He wants to nut into our water supply. Then don't
Jesus.
This is a serious existential threat. Damn it! Unfortunately for us, at the end of this arc, Old Man Butter closes in on the mysterious Aiden, posting threatening stalker photos by way of Google Maps. So, like any good plot, we've got the world and we've got the threat. Now, it's time for our main character. On Instagram, this post caption is a cipher that tells people to confirm by typing, "I am here for Aiden." We also get a post with a similar cipher that tells people to confirm receipt of this message by pledging support for Aiden. Finally, this chapter ends with a video that has a flash frame code that says it is time to start paying very close attention. And pay very close attention we shall, because we're about to enter Aiden's Nightmare arc.
That
Yet
was
after
unnecessary.
months of teasing us with his name, Nutter Butter finally was ready to start giving us Aiden's story. The first post in this era is a video of a man making a Nutter Butter beverage. Ugh. As we will soon learn, this man is Aiden, and he's not in full control of his actions here. There emerges a new, disturbing trend of POV videos where this man finds himself waking up to bizarre Nutter Butter displays in his home. Here's one where he follows peanut buttery footprints to a fridge holding a lone Nutter Butter. And here's another where he walks up to a shower running with a package of cookies waiting for him. When coupled with this Instagram caption that tells us that he may only visit in our dreams, and a post with a caption that urges us to go to sleep, we can deduce that Aiden has been sleepwalking. And while he sleeps, the Nutter Butter Man has
The Nutter Butter Man.
body to do what, you ask?
Beware the Nutter Butter Man.
World's weirdest midnight snacks, pairing the cookie with shrimp or tuna. But doors go two ways. And while Aiden sleeps and the Nutter Butter Man uses his body, Aiden visits the world of Nutter Butters. The most interesting thing, though, is that evidence suggests Aiden has been able to cross over to the Nutter Butter realm way before the Nutter Butter Man set his beady, creamy eyes on him. You see, one of the earliest ARG posts has Aiden visiting the Nutter Butter world.
I think this one kind of long. Sometimes I'll have a longer set of jaws that need
Recently, the ARG
tongues.
has been using that phrase, and I'm staking my claim that this is a callback to her. Without getting too ahead of ourselves, later on in this chapter of the story, it appears that Aiden and Sweetheart
shit.
fall in love, get married, and eventually have a child together. So the narrative it seems we're getting is that Aiden crossed over into the Nutter Butter universe, and there he lived a second life, not realizing that it was real. This does open up one question. How? Well, there's an unexpected scientific explanation for his ability to walk between worlds. According to studies,
Stop
sugar has
touching.
been linked with nightmares and bizarre dreams. Other studies have linked vitamin B6
Forget
that
it.
vitamin peanut butter is rich in with the ability to better recall dreams. And there is
That's why I don't drink
anecdotal
eat
evidence
peanut
among
butter.
researchers
I don't
that
want to
can
know
make
my
those
dreams.
more vivid. All this to say that one night when he was nutty for Nutter Butter, Aiden probably binged before bed and it popped him straight into another world. Don't try this at home, kids. As you can imagine, a human crossing over to the Nightmare Nutterland caught Nutter Butter Man's attention.
Nutter
He
Butter
saw an
Man.
opportunity
The Nutter Butter Man.
for his own
Oh,
purpose.
Jesus.
This is where his hunt began. One of the more horrifying videos shows the Nutter Butter Man reaching out toward Aiden, and it's implied that he touches him, tainting Aiden with the sticky peanut butter that coats his skin. This peanut butter mark allows the Nutter Butter Man to make use of Aiden's real-world body while he, for lack of a better phrase, nut walks. So while Aiden is living his honeymoon phase with Sweetheart and having a little nutter named Brian, the Nutter Butter Man is hard at work, replacing windshield wiper fluid with cookies. The madman. Then, one day, Aiden stumbles upon the Nutter Butter Man's notebook. Under a black light, he finds a threatening note from the Nutter Butter Man. This was my notebook. Something nutty is going to happen soon, but you have to find it yourself. Then, on the next page, there's a code. The code translates to 2024 is Brian's year. Obviously a threat, and while Aiden desperately attempts to dip into his emergency supplies to lucid dream and confront the Nutter Butter Man, his nemesis acts out his master. plan. This brings us to the most disturbing video in the whole ARG. This entry is deceptively from the point of view of the Nutter Butter Man. He breaks into Aiden's dream home, pushes past Sweetheart, and destroys Brian. Aiden is too late, but to prevent further bloodshed and protect Sweetheart, the Nutter Butter Man has Aiden completely cover himself in peanut butter. Instead of giving the Nutter Butter Man more control over Aiden's human form, though, this excessive peanut butter...
I have to move these to a safe location without dropping any of them. I'm sticking them all together.
Again, we get a handful of missing Aiden posts, but this time Nutter Butter Man is using Aiden as a bargaining chip. We are left with captions like "send to 3 people" or "Aiden will not return."
You know what I'm gonna work
Clearly,
on?
Nutter Butter Man is no longer latching
I didn't think
himself.
further than that.
Instead, he's seeking others who can dream themselves into the Nutterverse. In this final act, a new
Why
character
do those?
emerges, Nadia. Now, Nadia is just Aiden spelled backwards, and many believe that she and Sweetheart are one and the same. The answer is a little more complicated. Evidence shows she's actually another
where did
Nut.
that go?
Check out these posts, for example. That deadly heel appears just around the time Nadia hacks into the Nutter Butter social media accounts. Also, caught
these
those big
faces
beans
down.
first. That's another food.
Triple thick I cannot use. Triple thick I cannot use. Duraclear. I can use Duraclear. It does not have effect. So that is what I will use.
Excel.
Ooh.
Do what feels fresh.
Duraclear. Apparently, Mod Podge will react with polymer clay and become sticky after a while. This Duraclear doesn't seem to do that. A little thinner than I'd like, but we'll just put on 2 coats.
That Aiden fell in love with and had a family with was actually another Nutwalker just like him. So when the Nutter Butter Man invaded their home and destroyed Brian, Sweetheart woke back up in our world as Nadia. Eventually, the Nutter Butter Man wrests control over the socials and starts to release images of him and a peanut butter coated Aiden. Fun fact, these are actually altered images of the real Aiden, and the ad agency managing Nutter Butter actually hired him to work on these videos. Luckily for Aiden, Nadia's rescue mission wound up being a success. She was able to smuggle a magical Nutter Butter wand to Aiden, which he uses to frag the Nutter Butter Man into a zillion cookies and the Disney Channel portal his way home. But like any good horror movie, this defeat of the Nutter Butter Man is only temporary. And the happy ending isn't all that happy. Not only does the caption of his death say he's gone for now, but he literally reappears in the feed like a week later. There's something more terrifying about his defeat at the hands of our hero though, because our hero is compromised. After Aiden returns, he's exclusively depicted as a doll. Odd choice considering we saw him escape with our own eyes, right? No, that was just what the Nutter Butter Man wanted us and Aiden to think. On September 20th, Nutter Butter posted a video featuring a new character called Mr. 1021. 1021 allegedly works at Nutter Butter HQ, and during his first appearance, he morphs into the Nutter Butter Man. Notice anything about 1021 though? Let me just put up a silhouette of IRL Aiden. Yup, that is the same picture. Mr. 1021 is Aiden, or at least his physical body. Because while his mind and soul are trapped in the doll, his body is now under the influence of the Nutter Butter Man. But that doesn't mean that he's won. In fact, it's only just beginning. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit.
There's probably ARGs they've done, and in reality, it's just people doing random shit and being like, you know what, that works. We're gonna keep what they're doing.
Duolingo has lore. Wait, hold on. Duolingo has lore?
Duolingo is done.
Yeah, you heard that right. And this cute little owl is doing more than kidnapping people and breaking knees to get you to learn Portuguese. Nah, his end game, saving the world.
Not anymore.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the show where you're a theorist or you fear us. So normally this is where I'd ask you guys if you'd heard of the subject of today's
There we
theme,
go.
Duolingo. But
We'll make a few more of these, I
I'm
think.
almost certain you have, because this theory has been requested for months. Yeah, in our comments and on the subreddit, you loyal theorists have been asking us to look into the lore of this app, and y'all delivered. Because of your recommendations, we've actually been kicking around this theory for a while now, trying to the best way to approach it. And I mean, with their mascot duo faking his death in February, trying to get people
Now,
to do more
these I
of their
didn't make with
lessons,
polymer clay. I made them with something else. So the polymer clay doesn't react, or the non-polymer clay doesn't react with the Mod Podge. So I'm just going to use Mod Podge for these.
If you somehow don't know, Duolingo is a language learning app that helps you learn different languages at your own pace. Whether you're a complete noob, someone who's taken years of classes, or a fluent speaker, Duolingo's courses offer something to help you learn or just sharpen
gonna
your
do
skills.
one side so
And
they
their
don't stick
language variety
too
is
much.
huge. You can learn everything from German to Arabic to Japanese to Hawaiian. They even have courses for Klingon for all us fantasy and sci-fi nerds out there. So, now, all of that, it's great, cool, awesome even. But
I should learn French. I know enough to
to
understand when people are talking, but to actually sit and have a conversation, I cannot.
You realize that they have names, backstories, loves, hates, dreams, and fears. But none have more character or story than Duolingo's main mascot, Duo the Owl. Yeah, if you haven't seen, Duo's become something of a meme in recent years, bothering learners through push notifications, phone widgets desperately trying to get your attention, and just off-the-wall marketing.
Duo again. Monsieur Korean was. What happens here?
Yeah, Duo is very passionate about making sure you do your lessons, no matter what. But now, as of the writing of this theory, Duolingo has announced that Duo the Owl has passed away, probably, quote, waiting for you to do your lessons. To the sadness of the internet, pop singer Dua Lipa and Master Chief from Halo. Yes, real. By the time this video is out, he'll have miraculously come back, I'm sure, and please forgive me, it takes us weeks to actually make videos, but I wanted to take this opportunity to finally dive into the lore of Duolingo. And what I found, well, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Let's just say
These are going to go in a teddy bear I made the other day. So he's a stash jar. But he's very big, so he needs a little extra sometimes when they get really big. I like the claws. I wonder if I can get them 3D printed. It'd be a lot easier than this.
Because, like I mentioned
Just thinking
at the
in
top
black.
of the episode, there's a whole world of characters.
Ooh, I can
Now,
get them
when
sparkly
diving into
black.
the actual lore, the best way to start was by jumping into the app itself. And thankfully, there are features that really give us insights into the characters. And a lot of it is just really cute. For instance, some of the Duolingo radio segments have us listening to podcast interviews between some of the characters. And one of them was about watching movies with family.
Kevin, tell us about watching movies with your grandma.
You know, we just love to hear that here on Film Kit.
Where's the water?
Elsewhere,
There's the
in
water.
stories segments
Alright,
of the app,
those need to go to dry.
loving the characters play out.
And then we will go on to building some faces.
Only to realize that he
Okay.
completely misread the situation.
Do you always talk about work so much on a first date?
This isn't a date. It's a job interview.
In case you were wondering, Eddie did not get the job.
So, can I have the job?
Definitely not.
So what can we glean from all of this? Well, first off, we realize that each of the characters here helping you learn to say things like Je suis un chat actually have names, relationships.
Je suis un chat.
Besides the mascot, Duo,
Meow.
we have the unenthused Lily and her best friend Zari, both of who go to a school where Oscar does art, and Eddie
Where's the
teaches
polymer
Geo.
clay?
Eddie has a son Junior, and they actually live in the same apartment building as Zari and their friend Vikram. Then there are the best friends Bee and Lynn, Lynn's grandmother
Suppose we
Lucy,
can work on
and
these.
my personal favorite character,
Maybe that's
Paul,
what I'll do.
the talking bear. He wears a scarf. I would die for him. There's a bunch of small stuff hidden in these stories that create a world here in the Duolingo-verse. Junior owns a pet fish and parrots and has a crush on Lily. Lily really likes pirates and is allergic to horses. Zari loves cats but is afraid of parrots and spiders. That sort of thing. It's fun. Plus, that's the bear, though. Other than the fact that he loves snacks, but I mean, that's just relatable. Anyway, these mini storylines continue out to other parts of Duolingo's marketing, like their YouTube channel.
Today on Lily's terrifying experiments in social awkwardness, it's Pesos.
Yeah, if you head over to their YouTube, you'll find a series of animated shorts featuring each of the main Duolingo characters, teaching you quirks and factoids about communicating in other languages and cultures. They're fun, but if you browse through the other videos on this page, you'll start seeing, well, the videos start getting stranger and stranger. There are trailers for parody TV shows,
Duo's kitchen, it's either stallion or get chopped like scallions.
that is a sharp knife, chef, or a parody anime intro called Lost in Translation, or a 2-hour lo-fi live stream. Huh, that's a great idea, isn't it? Yeah, okay. This is really the green-feathered elephant in the room when you're talking about Duolingo lore and why everyone was so keen on us covering this stuff. If you somehow haven't seen it yet, the Duolingo mascot Duo the Owl is pretty much a viral megastar at this point, all because of crazy videos like this.
The only thing I want on Christmas Day is my mom and dad to be taken away by an owl with a BB. And said I should.
Yeah, if you go and look, the story for Duolingo involving their beloved mascot, Duo the Owl, has become, eye-catching is a word, unhinged is another, but certainly effective. And this is what prompted everyone to ask us to cover this series. But the more...
What do locals know about fresh food? At Foodland, we're locals and we know fresh.
These dishes just aren't getting clean.
Problem isn't the machine. It's likely your detergent. I recommend switching to Cascade Platinum Plus. These new pods have the grease-fighting power of Dawn, easily removing up to 100% of tough stuck-on foods. Love it or your money back.
The more I dug into it, the more I realized that Duo didn't become this unsettling force of nature overnight. No, this has been a long time coming, and we just didn't see it. Early on, Duo was a very chill dude. He was more of an encouraging, enthusiastic coach than anything else, cheering on and guiding learners to complete their daily Duolingo lessons. So, how did Duo start a descent into darkness? Well, according to Duolingo's chief design officer, Ryan Sims,
The number one thing Duo wants most in the entire world is for you to do your lesson today.
and the longer and longer Duo felt this way, the more passionately and seriously he took it. Like, if you add the Duolingo widget to your phone home screen, Duo will start the day pretty chill. But the longer and longer you wait, and the closer and closer to midnight it gets, the more stressed and desperate Duo becomes. Thanks to push notifications, Duo was able to remind learners to do their lessons, but if you've lapsed on your lessons or missed a few, he started guilt-tripping you, sending emails with him crying to the inboxes of his lost students. And if you completely fell off, he'd send another notification stating simply, these reminders don't seem to be working. The message from Duo was clear. If you stopped learning, not only are you a quitter, but your actions really hurt his feelings. Now, first off, I think this is hilarious. He definitely got a conversation around the App Store.
Huzzah.
And to play devil's
Interesting.
advocate for Duo the Owl here, languages are really hard to learn without consistent practice. And while guilt-tripping might not be the best long-term strategy, it is effective for getting short-term results. And more or less, it did work. And it eventually became a bit of a meme, which Duo embraced wholeheartedly, changing his future forever. In an animation called Duo's Day at Work, we're shown a typical workday for Duo the Owl. Normally, he's tirelessly texting friendly reminders to learners all over the globe. And suddenly, a lot of what we actually see in the app makes way more sense. Like,
Yeah.
some of the exercises encourage us
Let
by
that
saying
dry.
we advise you to use Duolingo every day. That checks out if it's Duo the Owl as the one poking us to continue our streaks and sending these messages out, right? But some of these also get a bit too honest. Like, the green owl is trying to come up with some new sentences. At least he's honest.
Ow,
When they
fucker.
or
Oh, that was my nail.
ignite their streaks,
I'm okay.
well, he has to do something different. And instead, he dons a giant Duo mech costume to go out into the real world. Yes, that is a thing that actually
Oh,
happens
shit
in
tittles.
marketing. We see the results of this
Well,
in an April Fool's
I've already marked that one.
ad for a fake feature
Okay,
called
go over there for now.
Which, I mean, just
Guess I'm working on you.
Duolingo can be used wherever you are. Now Duolingo Push can remind you wherever you are.
Yeah, this feature would allow Duo to stalk and annoy users who tried to put off their studies no matter where they were. Work, the gym, on a date. Not exactly the wingman I'm looking for, my guy. But this is just the beginning. He would soon monitor his learners even more closely, flying drones in front of the homes of lapsed learners and projecting unignorable notifications on their buildings. When the menacing seemed to wear off and people started ignoring him again, Duo took a cue from Red from Angry Birds. Yes, those Angry Birds. I guess birds of a feather do flock together, and began having vivid fantasies about threatening people who ignored his notifications. Though in reality, he was just slamming a bowl of peanuts onto the ground. That's admittedly not groundbreaking terror, but there's clearly the beginning of an escalation here. Along with his psychological warfare, Duo is starting to think about using physical violence to force people to learn languages. These frustrations also started coming through in the actual exercises of the app as well. Yeah, some of the phrases spoken to learners during Duolingo's basic listening and reading comprehension exercises on the learning path were things like, I hate everybody, and you in particular. To live is to suffer, and I cry and think about sad things. Sometimes even phrases
I
like,
cry and think
"Duo
about sad
used to
things
love
too,
me."
Duolingo.
Clearly, this was Duo trying to
I do
communicate
as
his
well.
sadness and frustration with listeners, but to no avail, because he takes things to the next level. Shortly after this, by March of 2022, people started disappearing, in a purely fictional sense, of course, and there was only one person to blame, Duo the Owl.
Have you been physically or emotionally injured by Duolingo?
And even worse, he was stealing Funko Pops.
Duo took my family. Next, he took my Funko Pop collection.
True horror. This is also the first place where a lot of Duo's comical threats appeared, including Japanese or broken knees, Latin or be flattened, and of course, Spanish or vanish. All of this carries the hilarious implication that the language you decide to learn will determine your punishment in the eyes of Duo should you fall off. Anyways, so many people and action figures had been harassed or just straight up disappeared that the fictional law firm Manchetti & Sons began a crusade against Duo the Owl. Though Duolingo themselves called these claims lies and false information, and that they were filing a cease and desist order against the law firm. Most importantly, though, Duolingo says you should definitely not call the phone number from this ad.
Text or call Manchetti & Sons now at 781-STOP OWL.
Yep, do not under any circumstances call that number. But, I mean, come on, we had call that number. And sadly, it's no longer active. But other people had the same idea and called it ages ago, playing a silly voice message that ultimately just led back to the Duolingo website. I have to say, seems suspicious, almost like Duo somehow got a hold of these people and was redirecting hate. But sadly, that's where this particular thread ends. Now, at this point, a lot of the story starts repeating itself. Duo wants more people to keep up their streaks and learn their languages, and resorts to increasingly unhinged ways of getting attention. He started a campaign to win pop star Dua Lipa's affections, befriended Hootie from the Owl House to maximize his star power, walked the pink carpet at the Barbie movie premiere, produced a parody Netflix-style reality show called Love Language, partnered with Squid Game to kidnap lapsed learners, and revealed during the 2024 Super Bowl that he had a BBL. Yes, the Duolingo Owl canonically has a Brazilian butt lift. If you don't know what that is, ask your parents. He also started getting more out of pocket with the actual content in the Duolingo app, setting out challenges that started toying around with his darker interests. Like, how? Well, he started to warn learners that there's a man with a knife behind the curtain, and early tomorrow morning I will be at your door. Which surely had more than a few people looking over their shoulders. He even admitted to crimes, confessing, I could be a bad boy. Oh, there, Duo, you might want to keep that to yourself. But the single biggest push Duo has been making during his crusade against Duolingo dropouts, using music to reach out to them. And that makes sense. Psychologists and anthropologists believe that music is a complex yet approachable way that societies pass on their cultures, and that music can shape the world on both an individual and societal level. So, using music as a way to get people interested in language, that's absolutely a valid strategy. Though Duo's approach has been, uniquely threatening. This whole part of the saga started with the introduction of Duolingo on Ice, and its biggest hit, Spanish or Vanish. And just a quick aside, but this song has the lyric, which translates to, I love human flesh. I think Duo's out for a little bit more than just blood at this point. Anyway, this was just the beginning of Duo's adventures with music. If you dive deep onto the SeatGeek website, this fictional musical actually has a full page detailing his entire set list of threats. Gotta say, I'm partial to
Right, 2 more ones to do.
You've mamaed your last Mia myself. And several additional songs were also released on Spotify, including the Hamilton-inspired French the Trench, and, okay, I'll try. Ich bin ein Handschuh-Schneeballwerfer. Yeah, there's no way.
Ich bin ein Handschuh-Schneeballwerfer.
That's the German word for people who need gloves to make snowballs, and it's basically just slang for coward. And also, just to keep up the
gloves for snowballs.
Released a freaking Christmas album. You gotta love it.
enough.
So that's a lot. Duo is now keeping an eye on his learners through push notifications on their phones, through drones flying through cities, by stalking them in the streets, and now with some irresistibly catchy music. But why? What could possibly be the reason for Duo to head down this darker path that we followed here today, becoming more and more nefarious in his antics? Honestly, what we've seen here makes him seem way more like a villain than the anti-hero he's claimed to be. So what's his motivation? Why is he doing all of this? Well, it comes down to one simple thing.
Let that dry straight
What
off.
actually is, it explains everything. See, what...
This dumpling has now ruined you for all future dumplings. Explore over 40 Michelin-starred restaurants.
Alrighty. We're still hanging on tonight.
Are your
Alright.
as clean as you think? Try Sweeper Wet. It gives me the cleaning power of a mop and the convenience of a wipe.
That's ambitious for that.
And grime. Even if it's dirt, you can't see, so it doesn't get pushed around. Sweeper Wet. Love it or give it back.
while Duo the owl is, well, an owl, he shares a lot in common with another
There must be
real-world
nothing
animal,
online tonight if you guys are hanging out with me.
aka the owl parrot. This is a bird from New Zealand that also happens to be one of the most endangered birds in the world. And I mean, just look at this guy. He looks exactly like Duo. They're both round, fluffy, green birds with cute little legs and tiny wings. Even the little lining around their faces is basically the same. But their similarities go further than just the visual. See, the kakapo is a flightless bird. Best they can do is glide short distances, which as we all know is just falling with style. And Duo? Well, he struggles in that department too. Within the Duolingo app, you'll rarely see Duo airborne. He's much more about jumping or gliding. What you will see from him, however, is great difficulty getting his wings to support his weight, just like a kakapo. So, okay, Duo is a kakapo owl parrot. Why does that matter? Well, here's where things get interesting. See, this is a pretty broad overview, but the kakapo is a figure in the folklore of the Maori, the native people of New Zealand. And according to that folklore, the kakapo is believed to have a supernatural foresight into the future. This belief stems from the kakapo only mating when the rimu tree fruited, an event that only happens once every 4 years or so. The idea is that the kakapo could literally see the future and know when the trees were going to fruit, and knew when it was time to, well, you get it. And if you want even more proof that Duo the owl is actually a kakapo with these foresight powers, this actually really happened to me in real life, but I myself got an unprompted email from Duolingo encouraging me to continue my streak, foreseeing that I would hit a 14-day streak. I mean, come on! But now, knowing this, if Duo is an endangered owl parrot with latent psychic abilities, suddenly
He's a
everything
Pokemon.
makes way more sense. Why would Duo be doing all of these heinous things? Spanish or vanish, Korean or not be seen, French or the trench. He's desperately trying to get people to learn languages because he knows something we don't. He sees something awful coming with his foresight and wants to avoid it. A dystopian future where humanity doesn't talk to each other anymore. And, I mean, just look around. Every day, it feels like society is shifting further and further into isolation. Echo chambers have trapped us and global communication is breaking down. He's even tried to straight up warn us about what he sees going on in the world in the app. In other exercises on the learning path, he's told us that the government of the country is not very effective at the moment. And today, there is no good news in the newspaper. And worse still, why is the government giving so much false information to the public? Remember, according to the Duo's Day at Work animation, Duo is canonically the one sending out these translations. He's the one sending these warnings because he's almost certainly seen this exact thing happen before. After he died, an in memoriam post from Duolingo's social media accounts revealed that Duo was born over 3,000 years ago, in the year 1000 BC. That in and of itself was a bit of a curveball, but that means that he's witnessed the rise and fall of numerous civilizations, the Egyptians, the Romans, the Mayans, and he doesn't want to see it happen again. And the solution is painfully simple. If we learn new languages, if we take the effort to communicate and learn about foreign cultures, expanding our horizons with new words and ideas and concepts, that we see this through the characters inside of the Duolingo-verse. Like, check this out. If we go back to the Duolingo YouTube page, you'll find some videos like I Hate Christmas, which features the character Lily talking about how much she, well, hates Christmas.
You couldn't pay me to go, your ugly sweater party.
That doesn't particularly sound like someone who enjoys to communicate, let alone go outside. And yet, Lily is all about talking to us in the Duolingo app, where you can literally call her to help practice your languages with the Call with Lily feature. She is literally connecting with you to help you learn about other peoples and cultures and languages. And that right there is ultimately Duo's goal. Why he bothers us with push notifications, encourages us to keep up our streaks, and now why he's gone out into the world to make sure that you keep learning, or else. But hey, once again, I want to thank Duolingo for reaching out to sponsor this video. Please add me on Duolingo to start your language learning journey and help me keep up my streak. Please, some help. And as always, remember that it's all just a theory. A film theory. And cut.
Okay, which one's last? You. Okay.
One sheet of Bounty versus one sheet of the competitive brand. One sheet of Bounty is 50% more absorbent, so you can use less. Get the job done with one.
There. Oh, my back.
Empress Cruisers 360
Can I solve Giggleland before it even releases? No, I haven't gone insane. Poppy did that to me years ago. This game isn't even out yet. All that exists is a Steam page and a single creepy YouTube trailer. But if you really pay attention, hidden inside them is a rabbit hole that tells us everything we need to know about this theme park. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game the show that can't stop.
Wow, must be nothing on this night. You guys are hanging out with me.
After a long day of theorizing, I like to kick back, open a pack of M&Ms, and watch some other YouTube videos so that I can just relax and switch off. But as the old adage goes, there's no rest for the wicked. While I was just minding my own business, YouTube showed me an ad for a new indie horror game, Giggleland. Now, despite my sorted food watching experience being rudely interrupted, I have to admit I was intrigued. And so I watched the full video, and it ticked all the usual boxes. Abandoned theme park, creepy mascots, the works. But the game wasn't actually out yet, so I took a mental note to talk about it once it released, and then I saw the description. It was all in binary. Binary that translates to a Discord server link. Clearly, there was more to this thing than met the eye. And now there was a server full of theorists who also wanted to solve what I very quickly realized was an ARG. One of the hardest ARGs I've ever seen, in fact. But thanks to the community's hard work and dedication, as well as a little bit of elbow grease from us here at Team Theorists, I believe we've not only solved the puzzles for this ARG, but the story of the game before it even releases. As always, links for the server and the master doc this community has made will be in the description. But without further ado, let's explore the mysteries of Giggleland. You will laugh, you'll cry, and you'll never stop smiling. Once you join the Discord server, the first thing you're told to do is to visit the website, which hasn't been linked, so we're off to a great start. Thankfully, Discord user FaceMelter9000 somehow managed to find it, giggle.land. And like that, we're off to the races. Although it's not exactly what you'd expect from an indie horror website. It's more like the back end of a website, though by clicking on admin, you do find the actual website for the theme park. And immediately things feel off. There's a picture of two characters named Elliot and Ella, except according to the assets folder, their names are actually Tolly and Rory. Elliot and Ella are different characters, the cat and dog from the trailer. There's also a page full of cartoon cats, loads of glitchy text that can't be translated, and reviews reminding you to be happy. I did notice a pentagram and upside down cross in a few places, so we might be dealing with some classic demon mascots here, but there's just not a lot to go off of. So I went back to the giggle.land page to see whether there was more lore to find within those links, and boy was there. When you go to star.html, you get this. When infants are left to cry it out, their cries go through a predictable sequence of behaviors. A baby left to cry it out will eventually stop crying. But it won't be because distress has been eliminated, but rather the baby learns that there is no longer any hope. Jeez, that's depressing. What's worse is that isn't just a depressing line written for an indie horror game. This is actual parenting advice from the book Texas Child Care Fall 2010. The book references the work of Erik Erikson and his theory, his psychology theory, on the stages of a child's psychological development. This quote specifically focuses on the first stage, trust versus mistrust.
There we
Basically,
go.
how a baby learns to trust.
Alright, put those away for now. Have to make another.
If they are met, the child develops a sense of trust, which Erikson believed was the basis for personal identity. But if their needs aren't met, then a child becomes fearful of the world around them. Way to make parents sleep training their kids feel bad, my dude. But it is interesting that we're being pointed to this psychologist whose key work was about how letting children cry out is bad. And we've also got a website and being unable to stop smiling. It seems like Erik Erikson might be a fundamental part of the Giggle ethos. As if the park was developed to help rebuild that trust.
Oh, that's an idea. I can use those guys.
This is an indie horror game, so no corporations are There's a PDF called Report November 23rd, 1990.
There we go.
It's a missing persons report. While watching TV, Laura
Laura was told by her mother it was time for bed, and she turns off the TV. This starts a fight where Laura insists on watching to the end of the episode to see what happens. Laura's mum does end up giving in, but once the TV comes back on, the show
What are
is
you
all
so...
ended. Laura went to bed devastated, and the next morning, Laura was gone with all her clothes, stuffed animals, and drawing pads. Laura's mum speculated that it was her ex-husband. They were divorced, and he had a bad habit of hurting Laura. All signs seem to be pointing to him, but with what we know about Giggleland's desire to make sad children happy, I have a feeling they were the ones who abducted Laura. Why else would there be a missing child report on a website about a theme park when it was a home abduction? Besides just filling out my indie horror bingo card. If they are following the works of Eric Erickson, then I believe that what they're doing is a net good. And so kidnapping kids, forcing them to be at Giggleland, it's worthwhile because they will get a better future. Needless to say, I
There's
have
another
a lot
bottle.
of questions. Fortunately, there wasn't contact with
the other
email
bottle?
address
The other bottle.
named
Doesn't matter, still gotta be
I sent
used.
them an email and got an instant reply.
With that as a problem, then we'll just add a bigger end.
Office auto reply. Why put an email somewhere if
No.
you're not going to respond to it? Because this is an ARG and nothing is quite as it seems.
There we go.
Looking at Josh's sign-off, there was a link. www.kidsmediaworkshop.com. This website is for the company Kids Media Workshop, and their goal is to make cartoons with characters like Elliot and Ella that help teach children about the powers of kindness and friendship, to stand up to bullies and, quote, other negative forces. One of the episodes is actually available to watch. If you head to the same page, one of the developers' names is, let's say, unconventional. And while I suppose it's plausible that a child could be named a bunch of random letters and symbols, in reality, this is actually part of a YouTube URL that takes you to episode 3 of Elliot
Where's that
and
thing that
Ella.
I
In
need?
it, Elliot is getting bullied, but he and Ella decide to, quote, remove the weeds from the garden.
Okay.
There's a bunch of glitches, the bullies look at them with
Where?
and before you know it,
It's not
the
far.
bullies have been buried in the dirt. Yay? I mean, standing up to your bullies is good and right, but burying your cosplay was definitely frowned upon where I grew up. That being said, I think we found our monster mascots. However, the kids and their parents don't really seem to mind it. In fact, they love it. And that's because the show isn't just for kids, it's by kids. In the Parent Zone, KMW says it's providing support for parents who have children with trauma. The staff are trained psychologists who provide respite care, separating the kids from their parents, learning about their issues, and then creating similar stories for Elliot and Ella to play out to help them. On the About page, we're also told that the children were encouraged to write, draw, animate, and voice act for the show to
Hi guys, just popped in there. Must be lost. I'm working on some monster faces tonight if you want to hang out. If not, you can slap me with a thumbs up before you head out. Always appreciated you stopping by.
I think we may be dealing with
Where's that other cookie cutter?
one that is using the psychology from
Oh, maybe in here, actually.
kids build up trust and convince them to
There's the other one I was looking for. One of the cookie cutters. Not the one I was specifically looking for, but can we? Are you about the same size? About the same size, so that's no good for me. Not tonight, anyway.
Like, come on, Tess, that looks like a
Oh.
This cult is absolutely
That's
trying to
disappointing.
preserve the world in their way of life and removing those who don't agree with it. And actually, if the kids are writing these episodes, does that mean that they saw what happens if you don't conform? Did they see the murder mascots like we saw in that episode? Just something to think about. Terry also has this weird habit of capitalizing certain letters, which of course I wrote down and put into all the ciphers I had, giving me nothing. I know. I was disappointed too. This had to mean something. You don't just randomly capitalize letters like that in an ARG. But it felt like we were missing something. Like there was a key to unlock their true meaning. And that is when Discord user Aurora and her team discovered something huge. After some intense searching through the website, they found that there was a secret audio file inside the missing persons report PDF. I've never seen anything like this before. What a crazy way to hide clues. Good job, Giggleland, and good job, Aurora and team.
Oh yeah, the Aurora Borealis is supposed to be out tonight. See, that flows good. So I don't know if that one's just, I don't know.
Smiling can help someone find the courage to do the same.
Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do your dog a favor. Get your power of attorney documents sorted out, and if you have them, look at them. Make the changes now so you don't regret not doing them in the future.
I should get a power of attorney. I don't have anything like that right now with my health conditions. Still an unknown.
Group planning is so easy. It feels like vacation.
And team for finding it. So, let's open it up. Wait, it's just a doorbell? No, that was my actual doorbell. Maybe the next clue is outside. Huh, it feels a little big for a clue. Surprise! Santi, what are you doing here?
Well, you've just arrived in the US, meaning your fridge is and while I don't care if you waste away, I think your viewers might. So, here's a sponsorship for today's episode that should help you out.
Oh, Cookunity? I've heard of these guys. They're the ones with a humongous team of award-winning chefs who make gourmet meals that get delivered right to your door. It's like having your own private chef.
And as a resident food guy, let me tell you, every one of these dishes are delicious.
Stay over there for now. I gotta make some eyelids.
Like, look at this. There's flavor packed into every corner of these dishes. Actually, I don't want to share this with you.
You crashed my episode. I get John DeLucci's white truffle mac and cheese and spicy chicken tenders. And looking at this order, it's clearly personalized for my tastes and dietary requirements. And if
Not
I
enough. Alright, I need to find the bigger cookie cutter. Just gonna be a second.
like something, I could have
It's within
customized
arm's
things
reach. That's kind of the worst part.
And to top it off,
Everything's a
each meal
mess.
is delivered to you in compostable, recyclable, or reusable packages. It's
Hello.
also made with in-season and locally
Up here?
sourced produce when possible. And
Down the letter Q.
Free of
Don't think that's the one I'm looking for. I need the food line.
Well then, I suppose it's a good thing that everyone else can try Cookunity for themselves by clicking the link in the description and using the code GAME.
I think it's red, but relatively easy to spot amongst all the randomness.
And for sponsoring today's episode. And I guess
You're welcome, buddy. Now, didn't you have an audio file or something to check? I don't know.
oh shoot, I forgot about that.
No problem. I'll just wait here, protecting these meals.
Oh no, you don't.
Hammer.
Now let's open up this audio. And it's password protected. Disgusting. So once again, let's go over everything
That
we
goes
had.
over there.
There was something I missed.
Goes up there.
Song Giggles Land.
I don't know why I have this.
Standard game bug report. But what I failed to notice the first time was this one line that's highlighted. Finally, code
Oh shit! Brains!
64, which gives us the name Sarah. We've
Okay.
not met a Sarah yet, but who am I to question?
I know it's
Sadly,
here
though,
because
Sarah
that's
is
the only
not
place I didn't put it back.
At least not on
Oh,
its own.
shit.
I do, however,
Where does it
remember
go?
this ARG mentioning base 64.
I moved everything, everything's
before in
lost.
the description of the Secret Elliot and Ella episode. Below the binary code, it says base 64 plus PDF. We've used base 64 for Sarah, so now we need to unlock the second part of the PDF. And the only PDF we've encountered on this website so far is the missing report about Laura. The question is, what part of the PDF do we use? Discord user Tamus suggested using the highlighted number at the top of the report, 513-769800.
Oh, there they are.
And wouldn't you know it, it was.
Happy birthday, dear! We really wanted to celebrate your special day with you. It's a shame your mother took you away before them. Maybe when you're older, we can find each other. We'll give you a gift you'll never forget. We love you.
Even through the source, it's clear that it is saying Sarah, the name you need to open the file. Is Sarah another missing kid like Laura? Laura's mother took her away from the show she was watching before she disappeared.
there it is.
Maybe before she could be brainwashed.
There, see the different sizes.
Although KMW made it seem like that was happening in a physical field. So did Sarah's mother take her away from the psychologists before they could fix her? Theorizing aside, remember, this isn't actually the piece of the puzzle we were looking for. We were looking for a key to solve this jumble of letters. And that key is now right in front of us. As I tend to do with all random audio I get in an ARG, I put it into a spectrogram, and doing so reveals a 6x6 grid with a selection of boxes blacked out. What was that random mess of letters we found earlier? 6 lines of 6 letters. Laying the text over the grid and selecting the letters that were in the blacked out boxes,
did I
you
touch?
get a single word. Crying. There really leaning into this Eric Erickson quote, aren't they? And they continue to do so because if you take the word crying and put it at the end of the Kids Media Workshop URL, you find this box. It congratulates us for finding the key, and suddenly a picture of Eric Erickson comes out of it because why not?
Well, something I had was absolutely horrifying to touch.
Labeled Captain Sales, and when you click it, it asks you to download a file full of images. These images are particularly peculiar because they are simply colored dots.
I have no
Each
idea.
file is named a different number. People tried combining all of them, combining just the reds or the blues, but whatever they did didn't reveal anything. We all knew these colors were important because Discord user Joan found a hidden page on the KMW site that gave us the hint red, blue plus green. We just couldn't figure out how. In fact, we were struggling so much that Giggleland themselves entered the chat. Yeah, they took pity on us and gave us another clue. Eric Erickson had some great books. Well, we've already been talking about one of his books, Childhood and Society, the book about the stages of child development. And this is where it gets really interesting, theorists. If you take a digital copy of the book, specifically the second edition, you can overlay the colored dots on the corresponding page the image is named after, and the dots will then highlight certain letters. Noting down what letters are revealed by each color, and then using the red, blue plus green clue from earlier, we get a really long combination of letters and numbers. Again, I tried my usual ciphers. Again, nothing worked, and so again, Giggleland had to speak up. They said to use a KDF, or key derivation function. This is basically an algorithm designed to generate secure password from a single key value, turning a simple password into a much tougher string of characters, exactly like we have here. All we need to do is reverse it, and for that, we need a key we've actually been given already. Back on the page with the Erickson box, we were told we found the key, and to get there, we had to use the word crying. Discord user Truehead was actually the first to figure this out, and once they decrypted it, we got a new YouTube video. All we can see is a very dark room with TV audio playing episode 3.
You won't actually pull the root out.
However, that's not what's interesting here. What's interesting is the video's transcript. It does not match the audio we're hearing. Instead, it says this. She speaks to herself. Alone, she begins to stand. Reaching her hand, she begs for some light. Answers. That is all she wants. Her travels are only just tumbles. She who speaks. 6. Hey, you and me both, Cohen. I'd like some answers too. Like, who the heck are you talking about? Wait a minute. The letters at the start of each sentence. S-A-R-A-H. Sarah. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. This video is called Sarah's Hijack, and in the description it says, "Where did you take her, Debbie?" I speculated earlier that Sarah's mum maybe took her away from Giggleland before they could do a weird psychological experiment on her, based on what Elliot said in the audio recording. If Debbie is Sarah's mum, then it would appear like I was on the right track. Although, we have seen a Debbie show up once before. She is one of the children on the parent zone saying how happy she is. If this site is up to date, then she can't be the mother. She's just another child. But if the site hasn't been updated in a long time, then there is a chance Debbie has grown up, had a kid, and then taken them away from the horrors they experienced as a child. My mind was racing, theorizing about the possibilities, only for that to be interrupted by Sin of the Soul from the subreddit Are Weird, who came across the Tumblr account about a girl stuck in her house. The name of the account was Sarah is Speaking 06. She Who Speaks. This is Sarah's account, and it is a treasure trove of lore. She is a girl graduating high school, and much like the transcript of the poem said, she is talking to herself, looking for answers, and is stuck inside her house with her mum constantly keeping an eye on her. This is everything we've been looking for. For example, another post tells us that one day her mum leaves the bedroom door unlocked, and Sarah begins to snoop around, finding her mum's sketches of, get this, Elliot and Ella. I'm getting a real good feeling about her. About her mummy Debbie from the parent zone. Those kids were encouraged to draw, to express themselves, to make the show. And sure enough, as time went on, we got that confirmation. People began messaging Sarah directly on Tumblr, and someone asked if they knew someone called Debbie, to which Sarah responded, "I have a mum named Debbie." And when Sarah asked about her mum's drawings, times, it was revealed that her mum was raised in a commune with her uncle, who helped teach kids how to draw and express themselves. Check, check, and check. Debbie is mum, and she is the same one from the website, the little girl in the commune that was helping to make the show. And as you'd expect, things aren't quite right with this little commune. They aren't allowed to leave. And Debbie mentions there weren't many adults, but lots of children. What did we see earlier in the ARG? Laura, a child being abducted in 1990. And if you look real close at the KMW logo, you can see that it was actually established that same year, 1990. Children are being taken and put into the commune because, as Erik Erikson taught, their childhood years are the most formative, and if raised right, they and the world will have a brighter future. I knew the founder sounded super cult leadery. However, Debbie did escape, and actually I believe she did so because of the very psychology KMW were using. We talked earlier about Erik Erikson's theory on psychological development and how in the first year children learn trust versus mistrust. Well, clearly KMW didn't read any more of the book because there are actually 8 stages in this theory that all apply to different ages. Now, thanks to Sarah, we can actually figure out how old Debbie was while in the commune, what stages she went through. Sarah's account ends in 06, implying that she was born in 2006. She's also graduating high school between her 17 or 18, which would then match up with the year 2024, the same year the KMW website was last updated. So 2006
I need to know.
In one post, Sarah makes a comment wondering what life would be like in the commune. So clearly, she didn't grow up there. But we've also had messages like, where did you take her? So the commune know of Sarah's existence, meaning Debbie either left when she was pregnant, or when Sarah was so young that she now doesn't remember. We also know Debbie was part of the when she was 11, based on that parent zone comment. And it seems like KMW became public in 1993, according to their website. I don't know for sure if that comment has been there since the beginning, but if it was, that would mean Debbie was 11 in 1993, and so would have been 24 in 2006. Left. Debbie was part of the Giggleland commune for over a decade, and therefore she'd have gone through Erik Erikson stage 5 and 6. Stage 5 is identity versus role confusion. This happens between the ages of 12 and 18 years old, when a child begins asking questions like, who am I? Where am I going in life? Erikson says that to help them find identity, you need to allow a child to explore in order that they can form their own sense of self. If instead they are forced to conform to set ideologies, the child faces an identity crisis, leading them to long for a different way of life. Exactly like what happened to Debbie. Forced to never leave, to conform to the commune's way of life, and eventually it caused her to run away to figure out who she was. But not until she got to stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. This stage develops between the ages of 19 and 40. At this age, we as people are seeking close relationships that are based on trust, emotional openness, and mutual support. If the individual finds these relationships, their mental health will be significantly improved and they'll be happy. But if they don't, it can lead to isolation, psychological distress, depression, and anxiety.
Oh, that explains me so much.
Debbie began to become isolated. She could only see the commune and the people in it for what they really were. Manipulative, closed off, only looking to advance their mission of saving kids and removing those who cause pain. Even when she found a romantic partner to conceive Sarah, it wasn't. She was just trying to gain the intimacy that she craved. See, the psychology they were using to get these kids to trust them and make them happy was the very thing that pushed her away. Now, she has escaped, but as Erik Erikson said, the damage was already done. She has isolated herself and her daughter out of paranoia that someone is going to take her away, which ironically is leading Sarah to follow in her footsteps. Sarah is 18 and so is also in the identity versus role confusion stage. And just like her mum before her, she is being isolated, forced to conform to her mum's way of life. Now we are beginning to see her rebel. She's starting to snoop around, desperate to find the truth, and it's driving her towards Giggleland more and more. When Elliot said, maybe when you're older we can find each other, we'll give you a gift you'll never forget, that was foreshadowing the events that I believe we're going to see unfold in the entry game. yeah, remember there's a game attached to this thing? Recently, Sarah began answering more questions on her Tumblr. In those answers, she mentioned having a blue bunny toy with an accessory and that she likes wearing beanies, which matches up suspiciously well with the two characters I mentioned right at the beginning of this episode, Tolly and Rory, who, based on the screenshots on the Steam page, appear to be the lead characters in this game. On the website, we're told that the real Giggleland is being turned into a game, the game we're about to play, making this an in-universe game. So either this is going to be a retelling of Sarah's story with Tolly representing Sarah, or worse, Sarah is going to head to Giggleland and end up being trapped in the commune, forced to help create this game, using her experience and Tolly to tell us what happened, just like the kids' cartoons did all those years ago. The only problem is we won't get a happy ending, because that would mean Sarah is still stuck in the commune in order to make the game and tell us the story. Maybe we'll get to find out what happens to her, but I have a feeling it's not going to be good. Regardless, I think it's clear that Sarah is going to escape her mum's confinement and head to Giggleland to find out what she's been keeping from her, only to discover the horrors her mum was trying to protect her from. A cult that kidnaps kids in order to help them be happy, while using them to help brainwash other children with their weird worldviews. They see anyone that gets in their way or anyone that causes pain as a weed that they can remove from this world, maybe with a little help from some murdering mascots. Although, we've not actually seen much of these mascots during the ARG. In fact, there are a couple of mysteries left unsolved, but Sarah's Tumblr account is updating every single day. Like, as I'm finishing writing this episode, she found an old Ella VHS, which not only had her mum's name in the credits, but also her dad's, Simon, the other kid from the parents' zone. Seems like he's still part of the commune. Maybe he's the one communicating with Debbie. Maybe he's going to be the one that tricks Sarah into staying before the game takes place. I guess we'll just have to wait and see for more ARG updates, or for the game's release. But in the meantime, remember, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching. World premiere on Game Theory.
Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just a website, it's an ARG, an artfully realized gallery full of drawings, cardboard models, vinyl records, a physical puppet, and of course, puzzles. Lots of puzzles. And they're all hiding a suspicious amount of lore. Something sinister is going on in this neighborhood, and we're about to figure out what it is.
A diaper this leak-free sets them free. Only Pampers Cruisers 360 have a 360 stretchy waistband for up to 100% leak-proof fit on every wild child. Pampers Cruisers 360, the #1 pull-on diaper.
Okay, first of all, what is Swift Hockey? We're a hockey stick company. We're trying to make hockey more affordable. Even if it's just one person, I want to make them join hockey and include them in the sport I love, make it more accessible.
Okay.
Why'd I say I'd man the grill? I don't man things. Here's the plan. I need burgers, buns. Great.
How's it going? Literally about 3 more minutes. You gotta turn it on.
Go take a dip, dude.
There we go.
Introducing Full Body Active. New styles, new colors, new stretching, new feels.
What do you need to know before Poppy Playtime Chapter 4? It's been a whole year since the previous chapter, and in the meantime, Mob has done what they do best, giving out more lore than you can shake a mechanical arm at. Don't worry, loyal theorists, because I have played the spin-offs, I watched every trailer, I even read the book. Also, you don't have to. Here is everything you need to know about the Poppy Playtime line.
You can wing it, I guess.
Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's ready to take its relationship with Poppy to the next level. We got nothing. No new character, no new trailer, not even a release.
Well, that didn't work.
That's right, just like Stock was releasing games so fast Matt couldn't keep up, not 5 minutes before our recent theory dropped, Mob Entertainment released a new trailer with a new character and a release date. 5 minutes? Are you kidding me? I'm convinced Poppy wasn't brought to life for lore reasons. It was to troll me for all eternity. I wouldn't be surprised if they did the same thing to us this week. Regardless, because of Mob's ridiculous and seemingly never-ending amount of content leading up to Chapter 4's release, it can be a little tricky to keep up with everything. We've had
Alright,
a book,
let's see if we
2
can figure this out.
ARGs, a Roblox spin-off, and over a dozen teasers and videos. But if you're someone that's only played the games, or you just haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then there's been a whole year worth of story that you have no idea about going into chapter 4. So today, I'm going to give you all a hand and fill you in from the beginning with all the important names, dates, and lore that was given us, as well as a few theories of our own for good measure, all in one cohesive timeline. Now, this is a big task, so instead of doing this like our usual theories, I wanted to try treating this like our FNAF timeline. It's more story focused, with references in the bottom corner showing thumbnails, books, titles, basically any citations that I'll be pulling from. I've also got this nifty little traffic light symbol in the top corner to clear things up. Green means what I'm saying are facts that we have physical evidence for, amber means what I'm saying is theory, but it's supported by evidence, and red means it's speculation that makes sense for the story, but we don't have a lot of evidence for. So keep a close eye on your screens, theorists. It's time to analyse the history of this forgotten factory. Just be careful that the screen doesn't stare back. Playtime Co. was founded in the good old US of A in 1930. Quickly, it became one of the most well-renowned toy companies in the world, priding itself in making toys locally instead of overseas like its competitor Mattel. Yes, that Mattel.
In the country of Mattel?
Barbie. I know exactly where you're going with this, and I have to say, I really resent it. All of this success was thanks to one man, the founder of Playtime Co., Elliot Ludwig. All he wanted was to bring joy to children, but sadly, that noble goal meant that he spent all of his time at work, neglecting his own family, and his wife had had enough, divorcing him that same year. Nevertheless, Elliot pushed forward, though for 2 decades, he struggled to figure out the key to innovating the toy-making world, until finally he hit a breakthrough. In 1950, Elliot created a toy that would change the world forever. Poppy Playtime.
A little girl can talk to her. Poppy gives her answers. She is the first doll actually able to have a conversation with a child.
Not only that, but her hair also smelled like poppies, which had been used throughout history to help children fall asleep, making her an instant hit with the parents. How did Elliot achieve this incredible feat? Well, because Poppy wasn't just a plastic toy. Elliot used organic parts to make her, allowing Poppy to really seem alive. He just needed to add a quick no-refund policy to anyone who tried to fix the Poppy doll themselves, just to keep it under wraps. Thankfully, no one ever discovers this little secret of Elliot's. Poppy sales alone can't keep toys company afloat, so they release a handful of new toys like Ron the Dinosaur in 1961 or Boxy Boo in 1966, though none of them really compared to Poppy in terms of popularity. But then, out of nowhere, tragedy struck. Since day one, Elliot had been encouraging his employees to adopt, to bring joy to children who had none of their own. And he lived by example, adopting a daughter of his own. Finally, the family that the family man had always wanted until she passed away before his very eyes. There was nothing that he could do.
Thank you guys for stopping by. You could slap me with a thumbs up before you head out for the night. I appreciate that.
So part of her could live on. Little did he know how successful that experiment would be. Somehow, his daughter's mind managed to survive. Naturally, Elliot is shocked by this. His daughter is back.
That's something weird. Something's going on here. Something adding up.
He couldn't let her fall out of his grasp again, so he builds a family home inside the factory storage room and locks her inside a glass case to keep her safe. He even adds a passage leading directly to his office so he can visit her whenever he or she wants. With his family now returned to him, his passion to strive for innovation was restored.
But with so much ambition, he rose back up and continued to fulfill his vision for the Playtime Co. toy factory.
The first thing he needed was more people like him. Smart, capable people that could help him continue to innovate and answer the toughest questions the world had to offer. Like, say, how was a child
This is
able
kind
to
of a
live
jelly
inside a
bean
doll,
shape.
perhaps? But older minds are harder to shape. He needed people who still had some of that childlike wonder, and thus the Young Geniuses program was born. Elliot sent out flyers and posters similar to that of the time period, trying to gather young minds together to turn them into the scientists of the future, stamped with the logo he'd been using for Playtime since the early days. This attracted many young and bright individuals, including
I think it's because it's just the eyes are very intense.
Harley Sawyer. Harley was peculiar, character. He didn't care for his comrades, he hardly smiled, but one thing he clearly loved was science, and Elliot took a liking to this strange boy. He may not have been normal, but neither was Elliot. He saw part of himself in Harley. This was the kind of kid he could take under his wing, mold into someone who could really shape the future, and maybe even catapult Playtime into the stratosphere of success. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out. Harley never lost his distaste for others, and while he continued to pursue innovation, he was just doing so to push the boundaries of what could be done, not to help humanity like Elliot envisioned. That being said, Elliot didn't give up. He kept trying to change Harley's point of view, but no matter how hard he tried, it was no use. Harley could not change, not here anyway. And so Elliot makes the hard decision to kick Harley out of the program, sending him home to the outside world to be around more people, hoping it will help him to understand why they do what they do. Harley was destroyed by this news. His hero, Elliot Ludwig, was abandoning him. All he could see Elliot as was soft, pathetic, and short-sighted, backstabbing him because he was too much of a genius for Elliot to understand. Though it didn't matter now. He had to do what he was told, and so Harley left the program, disappearing from the walls of Playtime, at least for now.
Foreshadowing.
As years go by, more and more, Elliot feels like it's not really enough to just encourage his employees to adopt. There are still so many children that need a home, much like his own daughter did. And while the Young Geniuses program was good, by taking on young people so late in their childhoods, even they were already stuck in their ways like Harley was. So, in 1976, Elliot announces a new program, Playcare, Playtime's own on-site orphanage, where he can continue to bring joy to children and educate them in the ways they should go, creating a mass of young, brilliant minds that could help lead the world to prosperity. Now, while all those programs sound good on paper, and they were well received by the public, they were beginning to cost Elliot a lot of money. Poppy was the last big financial success, and that was over 2 decades ago. But he can't keep innovating in the toy world and run these programs on his own. He would need more staff. So he hires people like Stella Graber to run the Playcare, Leith Pierre as head of innovation, Eddie M.N. Ritterman as the head of research, and Jimmy Roth as the chief marketing officer. Their first assignment? Figure out how to stop the company from feeling, quote, old-fashioned. With all their powers combined, they try to get the company back on top, starting with the release of brand new toys like Candy Cat in 1979. They continue to release toys into the next decade. They try Swappables that you could mix and match like Cappy and PJ Pugapella. They also tried Kick Me Paul for some reason, but nothing could quite match the success of Elliot's original Pop. That was until 1984, when Elliot another idea. He went to the team, and shortly after, he releases the Blue Boy himself, Huggy Wuggy. Things were looking up. Huggy is such a big hit with the kids, it basically becomes the face of the brand. In the eyes of the public, Huggy is a long-forgotten memory. Long live Huggy! Of course, he has to capitalize off of this success by releasing Huggy's pink counterpart, Pissy Missy, 1 year later. She too is a huge success, just not as big as Huggy, obviously. Playtime Co. is on top of the world at this point. It's almost like they can do no wrong, but certainly over the next half.
You guys are still here hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Even if I am boring.
Can't sustain an entire company off of a single toy, even if it has a cute pink girlfriend.
Yeah, we'll have to go another 20 minutes.
One of them had an idea.
We'll call it a night.
From your last trip, a taste for dumplings, a bit of local, a poncho story, a new wake-up call. Everywhere you go with Marriott Bonvoy shapes you, making you the greatest souvenir of all.
Oh, my arthritis. I did order like a pasta roller, it's just not in yet. Oh, it does not go there, never mind. It goes in something, I just don't know what. This one? Nope. Meh, we'll find it eventually. Half of this.
create a bunch of toys as part of a set. That way, kids aren't buying just one toy, but several. Enter the Smiling Critters in 1989. Similar to Care Bears or Cabbage Patch Kids, these are small, cuddly toys with big personalities, but each one is unique, and so you would need to collect them all for the full experience. This was the perfect way to increase the dropping sales numbers Playtime was facing. Plus, to really capture the same appeal as Poppy and her poppy-scented hair, these critters would each come with their own unique scents, all with calming effects. Crafty Corn smells like jasmine, Bobby Bear Hug like rose, but would calming be enough? Poppy's hair literally put children to sleep. That's what made her such a hit with the parents in the 50s. They needed these smiling critters to do the same. So they get to work developing one more smiling critter. One with the advertised scent of lavender, a scent associated with sleep, but instead of actually using lavender, they would create a poppy gas that would actively put kids to sleep, just like Poppy did. They put the smoke inside the purple cat and gave him a name that tied into his sleepy powers, Catnap. And just to be on the safe side, Playtime Co. also commissions the creation of a Saturday morning cartoon featuring this new cast of characters, all begging Catnap to help them fall to sleep with his words, showing kids and parents alike that this is just what the toy is meant to do. Initially, everything is going according to plan. Sales for this new line of toys are great. They are flying off the shelves. Both parents and kids really seem to love these new adorable critters, except for Catnap. After a few weeks, doctors began reporting a rise in children suffering from intense nightmares that all started after they received their Catnap toys. In Playtime's desperation to mimic the sleep-inducing effects that Poppy had, they'd accidentally concocted something that, yes, put children to sleep, but also gave children horrible nightmares. Thankfully for Leaf and the team, no connection was ever proven, but they still needed to save face. They recalled all of the Catnap toys, and Catnap was removed from the Smiling Critters lineup entirely. The Smiling Critters disaster put Playtime Co. in a bad spot. If they were going to survive the next decade, something needed to be done and fast. So Leaf Pierre put his education status to good use. He came up with an unusual but effective plan.
He fought for you? That must be an error.
Jared Lockhart to track down former members of the Young Geniuses program that Elliot had started decades ago. These people trained under Elliot. They were geniuses from a young age, and most of them had quite impressive careers. If anyone was going to be able to come up with an idea to save this company, it would be one of them.
Oh, most of her faces can be very generic, which is nice.
And when it lands on Leith's desk, there is one officer that catches his eye. Harley Sawyer. This guy was now certified by the American Board of Neurological Surgery. He was, by all accounts, a genius. And with Elliot using biological parts to make Poppy, a surgeon felt like the perfect fit. Leith presents this idea to Elliot for final approval. And while Elliot is hesitant at first, he does remember that Harley was the brightest of the bunch back in the day. And maybe all these years away have taught him the lessons he was hoping he'd learn. Do it. With that approval, Leith reaches out to Harley on January 15th, 1990, giving him an offer to come and join Playtime Co. once again. And strangely, despite the hurt Elliot caused him all those years ago, for some reason, Harley accepts the offer. Immediately, he begins showing the level of promise they were hoping for. He sees the problems at Playtime Co., the public outcry, the declining profits, and he came up with an idea that would fix everything.
Giant toys. We can increase our workforce and simultaneously decrease the number of lawsuits and people on our payroll if the people we have working are people. Put me in charge of it, and I will save this company.
Leith makes Harley.
How you guys doing tonight?
And together, they begin hiring other scientists to help with the development of the Bigger Bodies Initiative. Some of them are fellow Young Genius alumni, like Dr. Bruno White and Dr. Carmine McKay, but others are just young and eager biologists looking for their first big break, like the owner of the orientation notebook, PW.
Well, maybe they don't need to be that long.
Harley takes the new scientists to observe and study the Poppy doll that he remembered being in the storage room from his days in the Young Geniuses program. He told them to use her as the blueprint to bring toys to life.
I am the cause. Being able to exist as a doll has killed so many people.
Every Everyone works diligently to try and recreate the magic of this one poppy doll. But after 814 experiments, it's clear that things aren't working with simple rats. They need to try something bigger. They need to repeat what Elliot did. They need to use children. Harley delivers the note to Elliot as one of his many updates on the program. Once again, Elliot is frozen. Up until this point, these experiments weren't really all that bad. It was just a few hundred rats that suffered the consequences. But now, he had a choice to make. He'd spent his life trying to bring joy to children, to give them a home, somewhere they could grow and overcome the odds. Harley still couldn't believe this soft old man. What is more important to you, these children, or the business you spent decades building, which people rely on for their own families? Mortality is just a curse on humanity anyway. If we can figure this out, all these orphans who had suffered would never grow old or sick. They could live forever and keep bringing joy to other children for centuries to come. It was not an easy decision, but this argument from Harley does sway Elliot. With that permission in hand, the senior staff at Playtime Co. set about building the Game Station, a facility designed to test the orphans' physical and mental abilities, pairing them with a specific toy, and if they were deemed ready, taken away for conversion.
They come for games and never come back.
As part of this process, they utilized the red smoke that they made for the catnap toy. Where previously poppy gels had failed, gas is a much more effective way of getting the mystical powers of the poppy flower that help bring poppy to life into the bodies of these orphans. They installed shower heads throughout the playcare to distribute the gas, but it wasn't the most effective solution. Kids could see them and what they were doing. They became wary of going to bed. An alternate solution would need to be found. However, they had other problems to deal with. Over the last few years, there had been one employee that had been causing Playtime Co. a lot of trouble. They weren't ruining their plans as such, they were just a bit of an administrative headache. That man was Rich Lovitz. Initially, he was working in the storage room, and he seemed to be on board with the general Playtime mission, appreciating the good this company did for the orphans. Sadly though, Rich had a habit of losing his temper with management, and so he was demoted to the rejected toy room, which, as you might imagine, he took really well.
After years of being known, company actually heard of my complaints. Because the word was to really inspire me to take action. Because the next day I got demoted down to the freaking island of misfit toys.
Of course, Playtime Co. had to demote him again, putting him to work in construction in the caves beneath the factory. Down here, in relative solitude, he was able to recognize his shortcomings and, with the help of his new supervisor, began to improve, even to the point of getting promoted. At first, this seemed great for Playtime Co. A reformed employee. The system worked. That was until Rich continued being promoted and began learning what was really going on with the orphans. He cared for these kids. That was the one good thing he had going for him from the beginning. And so, he begins flying off the handle once again. The problem was now, he knew too much. He could actually cause a problem for Playtime Co. if he went to the authorities. They couldn't just fire him anymore. They needed to get rid of him. And with the Bigger Bodies initiative well underway, as well as Harley's requests for bigger subjects, they had an idea. They took Rich and used him as a guinea pig, turning him into the first semi-successful experiment 1006, which they dubbed the prototype. Not a toy as such, more a mix of mechanical and biological parts. It lacked the ability to speak, but was able to mimic voices of others to communicate. Playtime Co. was finally seeing success and removing the problem at the same time. But Rich, now 1006, wouldn't forget what had been done to him, nor what they were doing to the orphans. He just needed to bide his time and wait for the right moment to strike. Playtime Co. continued their development of the Bigger Bodies, but they struggled to find the success they'd had with 1006, usually unable to reactivate their brains after surgery. That is when Harley decided to try something different. He decided to make the Bigger Body physically bigger, rather than just trying to match the size of the test subjects. It flew in the face of all logic, but he needed to try something, and the crazy part is, it worked. They created Experiment 1160, Boxy Boo, and this discovery opened up a new world of possibilities for the future.
Good to have you
At
back.
this point, several orphans are showing promise in
Working on some faces
Although there was
tonight.
one that caught Harley's attention specifically, Quinn Davidson. He was a pretty average kid, except he had a strange obsession with removing the heads off of all of his toys. However,
I get that
didn't see this
obsession.
disposition as a weakness. It was something he could take advantage of.
Oh no.
To get his scores higher and make him the most successful.
Oh, I like these like Cthulhu ones.
Harley spends some one-on-one
These eldritch horrors.
convincing him that he understands Quinn better than most, and asking him to just simply apply himself for the next assessment. And next time, Quinn's scores did improve in most areas, although his intelligence seemed to wane a bit, but not enough to stop the inevitable. In August 1990, Quinn became Experiment 1166, Yarnaby. He was strong, agile, swift, but his intelligence still wasn't where Harley wanted it. He saw him more like a dog, which, while not ideal, could be useful for protection. The more bigger bodies they made, the more things there were that could kill him and stop his progress. So Harley isolated Yarnaby, making Yarnaby loyal only to him. Around that same time, another author named Theodore Bramwell began causing some mischief in Playcare, breaking into rooms, stealing files, even stealing a grab pack. When questioned about it, he just said it was his friend that told him to do those things. The staff just assume this friend is of the imaginary persuasion, but in reality, it was very, very real. 1006 had found a way out of containment and was using Theo to help them escape. Once it had all the information, 1006 and Theo made a break for it. Though, due to Theo's inexperience, he accidentally overcharges the electrified grab pack hand and electrocutes himself. At this moment, 1006 has a choice. Gain the freedom it wants or save Theo. It chooses the latter. It gives Theo over to the Playtime Co scientists and turns itself in to be locked away once again. Now, there is only one way the scientists are able to save Theo, and on November 11th, 1990, the bigger body Catnap was born. Experiment 1188. He was put into the Playcare because he was able to release the red gas just like the toy, and the kids would, hopefully, be much less suspicious of this big friendly toy than a typical showerhead. Again, Playtime Co. was killing two birds with one stone. The Bigger Bodies initiative was now in full swing. Between Catnap and Yarnaby, Huggy was created, and in 1991, he was put to work as Playtime Co.'s new security measure, though his wandering eyes were noticed by an employee who wasn't supposed to know anything. Rowan stopped. Rowan wanted to get to the bottom of what was going on over the course of 6 months, began to figure out exactly what
I'm okay.
when he threatened to leak what he'd found to the public, Harley put his bigger bodies to good use.
Earn WestJet points faster.
That was mine.
Get the WestJet RBC World Elite MasterCard.
Good choice.
Whew, I like these, but they're a lot of work. That must be an error. I don't imagine there's actually 16 people watching. I don't imagine there was 35 earlier, so.
He's now streaming on Disney Plus. American Brave New World, now streaming on Disney Plus.
We need to start taming that appetite of yours.
Yeah.
That same year, another orphan, Marie Payne, began suffering from unwakeable nightmares thanks to Catnap's gas, leading to the latest experiment we know of to date. Experiment 1.
Is it the nozzle?
Mummy Longlegs. She was violent towards the staff, but kind towards the kids, making her the perfect guardian for the game station.
A little
By
bit.
May of 1992,
All right,
game
so
station
you're
is
the
in its
problem.
heyday. Everything is working as planned. But one person is still causing problems. Elliot Ludwig had put a picture up in his office that one of the kids had given him of the game station and Mummy Longlegs. But when he sat there and looked at it, those decisions that had led to this point, they began to weigh heavy on his shoulders. He still felt that Harley's pursuit of innovation for the sake of it wasn't right, but the rest of the senior team seemed to be all for him, and it was hard to deny the success. Regardless, he knew he needed to put some
some kind of safety measure in place. Something to keep Harley in check, just in case his worst fears came true. So
A little late, isn't it? Sorry, experimenting on
Young
kids.
Geniuses graduate Dr. Bruno White to become Harley's superior. Once Harley found out, he could think of this as nothing more than another betrayal from Elliot. And this time, he'd had enough. Elliot was too soft to keep things moving forward. He needed to be got rid of, just like every other problem employee they'd faced. One day, both the staff and the public were informed that Elliot Ludwig had passed away. But Harley Sawyer was the only one who knew the truth about what happened. Thanks to Dr. White's promotion, Harley's involvement in things slowly became less and less, leading Harley to become more and more frustrated and driving him more and more insane, until one day he decided to take matters into his own hands.
Okay.
During a guided tour of the factory in 1993, fires break out in the theatre, causing casualties all across the facility. Obviously, Leif Pierre is furious. Now he has to clean up the mess, taking care of any potential witnesses. This is not the kind of publicity Playtime needed. He brings back their private investigators,
One more.
figure out who is to blame, and true
I
to
already
his
got
word, he gets
2 clowns. I'll do another 3 eyes.
After spouting rhetoric about one bad day and being betrayed by Elliot all of those years ago, Harley had finally gone full Joker and set the theatre ablaze, baptizing everyone in the flames that he was working so hard to save them all from with his bigger body's initiative. As Leith had suggested, Harley needed to be punished, but he can't justify the usual methods. Harley is an undeniable genius, and it would be a shame to lose such a brilliant mind when they definitely still needed him. The bigger bodies, while alive, were temperamental and hard to control. They needed to keep perfecting the process. This also meant turning Harley into a bigger body wasn't an option either, as he too would likely lose his mind. And that was when it hit them. Instead of turning Harley into a bigger body, why not turn Harley into digital consciousness? They could focus all their attention on keeping his mind alive without the need for a physical body. That way, Harley could still help them and guide the scientific process, but he couldn't physically cause any problems. It was perfect. By 1994, this plan is underway. The party line is that Harley is just out, maybe on a sabbatical or something. And in 1995, the new Playtime automated companion is up and running, ready to meet with scientists at PW. The system would end up being shut down after May of that year, but regardless, it was another success for Playtime Co. However, as we've seen time and time again, pride cometh before the fall, and this next fall would be the biggest Playtime had ever seen. Behind the scenes, while Playtime Co. had been dealing with Harley, 1006 been plotting. They've been gathering all the toys and promising them the thing they all wanted, freedom. They formulated a plan to take back the factory from Playtime and kill all those who'd helped turn them into monsters. They called it the Hour of Joy, and on August 8th, 1995, they executed that plan. They attacked everyone, scientists, tour guides, construction workers. It didn't matter. They were all responsible. They all needed to die. The toys dragged the bodies into the depths and slowly consumed them to satiate their hunger. Only a small few managed to escape the carnage, Leith Pierre being one of them. Despite the insane loss the company was facing, he kept insisting Playtime Co. continue their work. He began recruitment efforts for a resource extraction team, people that would go back into Playtime Co. and collect the parts they needed to keep
Where'd that little
making
tiny stick go?
their
There it is.
But eventually, the rising pressure from the public over the mysterious disappearance of the staff, their friends and family, was too much for even Leith to handle, and he shut down the factory for good. Nearly a decade passed, and the Playtime Co. factory, as well as all that happened there, had largely been forgotten. The world had simply moved on. But in 2002, deep in the bowels of the factory, something or someone was coming back online. Harley had awoken from his mysterious slumber. Ironically, just as he'd always stated, his conversion had actually saved him from death. Unlike his former colleagues, he realized the opportunity he had. There was no one left to stop him.
His plans could continue. He could save the rest of humanity from their mortal coil and convert them all into living, eternal toys. So he began hacking into the rest of Playtime Co.'s systems, taking control of all communications that were coming in and out of the factory. His plan would come to fruition. At the same time, the bigger bodies also remained in the factory, waiting for the prototype to save them as promised. But food supplies were running short. Some of them began to lose their faith that salvation would ever come. Dog Day was one such toy, and 1006 quickly made an example of him. This type of threat, however, wouldn't work forever, and 1006 knew that. It needed to make progress. It was still trying to create its perfect body, but it just didn't have the know-how. Rich was just a simple construction worker. Sure, he could do some cool things with tech, but biology was a whole other ballgame. It needed help. So in 2005, it writes a note saying that the employees that went missing were actually still in the factory waiting to be rescued. And it sends it to the only person that's not only around to hear it, but would actually care enough to make the trip to play a character, PW. PW didn't show up for work on August 8th, 1995. They were still alive, and more importantly, they actually cared about their fellow employees. If there was a chance their colleagues were still around, they needed to help them. Now, as a former employee, they knew their way around the factory. They knew where this flower was that they'd been pointed to. They just had to get there, while also trying to avoid an unpleasant reunion with one of the many bigger bodies they'd helped create. Huggy Wuggy. PW finds Poppy behind the flower, in the same room she always was. Although there are now messages around the room warning them not to trust her. Regardless, once they open the case, Poppy agrees to help PW escape. See, she's not that bad at all. Only Mummy then shows up and kidnaps Poppy. After beating all of Mummy's games, PW returns to Poppy and kisses her train, only for Poppy to now change her mind and stop PW from leaving.
Sorry, I can't let you leave.
They really should have trusted the signs. The train crashes in front of the plane, and with some surprising help from Poppy, Kissy Missy, and their ally Ollie, who may or may not be the prototype mimicking a child's voice to trick us, PW makes their way through the playcare. Together, they defeat Catnip and begin the long trip down into Playtime's prison. But Kissy doesn't make the trip. She is killed by something on their way down. And all of this time, Harley has been watching through the security cameras, making his way down to the prison just a bit ahead of them to reunite with Yarnaby and lay whatever traps he has in store for us down in the depths, along with the nightmare
I didn't know
critters,
Kissy died.
Spinosaurus,
Shame.
and
I
the
haven't
toy
really
made
watched
from
any games,
Play-Doh,
though.
Chloe the Donut. And that, loyal theorists, is the entire timeline
Ooh,
of
that's
Poppy
not good.
playtime so far. Boy, this franchise is getting big. This is probably the last time I'll be able to do an entire... They are either things Mob has told us directly, or we have a lot of evidence to support. The only real details that are super speculative are things like when the Young Geniuses program started, or why Elliot agreed to start using children in the experiments. We said that the Young Geniuses program started in the 60s, but it could very well be the 50s based on the logo. Maybe they were even the ones that helped make the first Poppy dolls. But so long as Harley joins the company early, leaves, and then comes back to cause a bunch of problems, it doesn't really matter which decade it takes place. The same thing goes for Elliot's change of heart towards the orphans. We've got no evidence saying why he made
Never
the
mind.
decisions.
Go back
We
in your
may
pot.
discover his reasoning in the future. It's just not going to change the order of events because we have set dates of when things have to happen. But there you have it, friends. Everything you could possibly need to know going into Chapter 4. And I don't know about you, but now I'm even more excited to see where all this goes. Who will our allies be? What is Harley's big plan? Will I have to rethink the identity of the prototype for a third time? I'm sure all will be revealed in a few weeks. In the meantime, remember, that's
Oop,
just
yeah, I
a
fell off.
theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching. World premiere on Game Theory.
Today we end the torment. 19 books, 11 games, 8 whole years, all leading to this moment.
Oh, yeah. What a clown face.
Timeline is finally complete. The pieces are in place for us. Now all we have to do is put this story of tragedy, jealousy, and loss back together.
Take the shot.
Close
Wes
enough.
Anderson's The Finishing Scheme is a hilarious four-star adventure.
Alright, is that all of them?
You're drunk. And the
Okay. I guess I should prep some more then.
Finishing Scheme.
Tide Oxymax powered mods, one of the clean powered liquids.
I wonder.
They're doing for sure.
I wonder. Probably.
Any further questions? One up the power of liquid with Tide Oxymax power mods. internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's not afraid to admit when it's all washed up. On a video game island full of lore, that is. Because I'm finally getting around to talking about the ARG that blew every other ARG I worked on out of the water. We would have probably talked about this sooner, but it came out on April 1st, and we were...
Yeah, good. Well, I should grind these down, so I'm going to use the sander and I'll be back. There we go. There we go. Just gave the edges a little light sanding down, so then they're a little bit more easier to sculpt rather than just that straight edge that falls off. Clean it off and sand this one, or I don't know how that would affect the blade. Release. I'm not upset if it gets sawdust in it. Let's wipe off the edge and go sand this one down. There we go. There we go. Oh, Tenny's still hanging on. Yeah, you guys must be bots. 'Cause I am not doing anything fucking entertaining tonight. I wonder how bad I can mess these up. Probably pretty bad. Why am I doing this? When I go in with the polymer clay afterwards, it'll actually stick, because it won't stick very well to the wood. But if I bake this on, then I can get a nice coat of polymer clay on it. And this one's weird, so I don't mind using this, actually. I can use the rest of this, maybe. I'm just gonna throw that out. For some things, it's just better to say bye-bye to. There we go. Doesn't have to be 100%, but at least 70. It's weird having fans at your work. It's nice. But it's not something I ever expected to have. So it's nice. There. If I peel you off, extra texture. Good. That makes them easier to transport too. Unlike everyone else who I have to transport all on their own. Oh, I forgot to put the music back on. Not the music, but the audio.
A little busy here at Theorist. So, after 5 months, I figured it was high time we take a look at the difficult and disturbing game that took the internet by storm, Shipwreck 64. Now, if this is your first time seeing this game, you might think it's going to be similar to other lost video games we've covered in the past, like Petscop, where we watch found footage of someone else playing the game and see the ARG story unfold before us. But not this time, friends, because this is a game you can actually play for yourselves. That's right, this game puts you in the driver's seat and gives you the opportunity to go around and find the secrets yourself. And there are a bunch to find. But to get them, you have to solve some of the toughest puzzles I've ever encountered. And sometimes you even have to fight the most basic of gamer instincts. You have to lose. If you do that, you are rewarded with the thing that we all crave. Lore. Lore is about a company fallen on hard times, one man's desperate attempts to save his wife, and one of the most brutal mascot killers the internet has ever seen. This is truly one of the most disturbing, outright horrifying game experiences the internet has to offer.
And then I'll be done with them. At least till tomorrow night.
So let's set sail together, loyal theorists, as we go through the puzzles, solutions, and stories of Shipwreck 64. Booting up the game, we're immediately given a well, kind of. We can see that there are two versions of this game. One from 2023, which is a recreated version of the original Shipwreck.
Those are the faces, and I'm going to go put them in the oven. I'll be right back.
That appears to be that original game, the one that was removed from store shelves. However, to unlock that version, we need to complete the 2023 version. So, off we go. We take on the role of Bucky Beaver and start the game shipwrecked on an island. No surprise there. We are then tasked with finding our crew and rebuilding our boat. The bad news is, you only have 5 days to do it, as a volcano is due to erupt and destroy the whole island. So, best get cracking. By exploring the island, you'll find your crew one by one, and they'll ask you to complete a mini-game to free them from the island time limit, and Giovanni Goose needs you to stop the ovens from catching fire. You can also find the chief of the island, Chief Wolf, who gives you a mini-game to rebuild your boats. Each time you play a mini-game, time passes, so be quick about it. You can end the game in one of 4 ways. You can escape the island with or without your crew, or you can choose to stay and either wait for the clock to run out, killing everyone, or explore the volcano, finding a barge that will not only save your crew, but all the inhabitants of the island. However, the ending you choose doesn't really matter, because by getting any ending, you unlock the thing we're really after, the 1997 version of Shipwreck 64. When you start a new game and select this version, we are given a warning that it is not for the faint of heart, and that it's unaltered from its initial release. If that's not an invitation, I don't know what is. This is where the true nature of this game starts to appear, because while on the surface it seems to be the same game, something is off about it. There are suddenly locked doors with what appears to be gibberish written on the signs next to them. But we're theorists. Nothing in these games is just gibberish. This is a substitution cipher, but it's not like one that we've used in the past. Essentially, it involves swapping letters back and forth to create a new phrase. A equals B, B equals A, C equals D, D equals C, and so on. Deciphering the 3 signs gives you the codes Layer 2, Room 1, Layer 2, Room 2, and Layer 2, Room 3. This doesn't mean a whole lot for us, but if you stand around for too long trying to figure it out, you'll see there's more wrong with this version of the game than a few misspelled signs. From here, you can go through and play the rest of the game as normal, win the mini games and get off the island. But where's the fun in that? There are clearly secrets to find, so what do we need to do? Well, it starts by losing. That's right, if you lose each of the mini games, things begin to fall apart. Each time you fail, the mini game gets harder and harder to beat. And with each time that happens, we are treated to some disturbing clips that begin to hint at what this game's lore is. Walter's minigame shows us a clip of someone wearing a costume of Bucky, looking down at someone with a bunch of sculptures in the background.
Alright. I'm just about done for the night, I think.
May not be able to see what's happening,
I just realized what time it was, unfortunately.
Especially with an indie horror game. But this isn't the only secret Walter's game is hiding. Near the final switch, you're meant to go through this door and then out the other side. But if you instead jump over to the other side and then try to re-enter the door from the wrong side, you suddenly find yourself in a long corridor with a button at the end that plays a clip from a man named Mark Mullins. He's taking someone to hospital, which is useful to bear in mind, but the most notable thing right now is that he mentioned no one has been acting right lately. Could this be referring to the Bucky we just saw? Maybe Mark noticed Bucky's weird behavior before whatever happened in the Squelchy video. It's hard to say, but Bucky does certainly continue to get more and more unhinged as time goes on. When you get to Olivia's section, it's split into two parts. In the penultimate failed attempt, we can hear an audio recording from a woman titled Olivia's last phone call. Olivia complains about him showing up again, only for Bucky once again appear banging to be heard the audio going. Normally, this is where I start theorizing what's happening.
Oh dear.
The second section does that for us. You're back in the same room, but if you parkour off the walls, you'll find Olive face down in the water, a trail of blood behind her, and another Bucky staring down. Bucky, this he killed this woman, Olivia, represented by Olive, and dragged her body into the lake. Now, I thought that was pretty dark, but nothing could have prepared me for failing Giovanni Goose's game, because after a couple of failed attempts, Giovanni stops being interactable. You can try, but nothing happens. And then... Sorry, we had to blur a lot of that for YouTube. So, if you were wondering, that is a man having his head bashed against a microwave and dunked in a deep fat fryer by Bucky. It is brutal. Really not what I or anyone expected when playing this game for the first time. Oh my god! So, what on earth is going on here? Well, if you break out of bounds through this glitchy wall during the Giovanni minigame, you can find a single oven engulfed in flames, with Giovanni Goose laying on top of it. It seems to be a recreation of the gruesome scene we just witnessed, with Giovanni Goose taking the place of the human whose head was shoved in the deep fryer. With these characters being mascot costumes, it's possible that the guy we're seeing is actually Giovanni's human performer, and he was brutally murdered by whoever was playing Bucky. This would also confirm that the dead version of Olive we see floating in the river was another recreated scene. And while we don't know what happened to Walter's performer, Bucky standing over him with squelching noises playing, yeah, it doesn't give me the best confidence he's okay. That brutal clip we just saw also gives us a date, 1990. But this game came out in 1997, meaning the company would have had to have had all of this up for 7 years. Is that why these videos in the game, to expose the company that the Steam page tells us is known as Broadside Studios? But if that's the case, who's trying to expose them and why? For that, we need to go to this weird glitch you can find in the living quarters area after you fail the minigames. Walk into the glitchy wall texture and you'll find yourself face to face with Chief Wolf once again. Only it's not Chief Wolf. The name that pops up on screen is Connor. At first I wondered if Connor was another victim of Bucky's, the actor for Chief Wolf, but then I read their dialogue, and it is strange. They talk about polygons working together to create an illusion, and go on to say that they made all of this. Is Connor the game's developer? It's the only thing that would make sense with this kind of dialogue. And there's been plenty of indie horror games with devs trapped in their own games before, except unlike most of those other game devs, Connor doesn't seem to be interested in escaping. They're just admiring their work, like they're proud of it, gruesome videos and all. Considering how hard this character is to find, I have a feeling this is more like a self-insert NPC, a sign to the player early on from the dev that they're heading in the right direction. Okay, so we have an idea of who did this, but we still don't know why he felt the need to turn against Broadside. So let's keep digging. Remember those locked doors I pointed out earlier? The ones with the sign saying Layer 2, Room 1. Well, once you completely fail each minigame, those locked doors become unlocked and allow you to travel to a deeper second layer of the game. The game, which I guess explains the players.
What time is it?
I'm not going to run through how
15 minutes. I'm done for the night.
Or for the entirety of this game for that. There are so many
what's
puzzles
this?
that this would be an hour-long
Oh.
video if I were to explain each
Shit.
one step by step. Not every
I
puzzle
broke my
has full
teacup.
significance either.
Gonna have to stick it back
Finally,
together.
I actually think it's just fun to leave some mystery for you guys so that you can go and play this for yourselves. I promise you, it's well worth it. So, what I do want to do is to explain the primary puzzles that you need to solve to progress. Because I have never seen ciphers like this before, and this won't be the last time they get used either. So, if you go into Walter's room, you'll eventually come across a room with a number of cabins and an audio player on the wall. It's labeled with code is RXC.
So this face is done.
Words. These
Now I
words
just
are
need to
part of the
find somewhere to put it.
Romeo, X-ray, Bravo, and Charlie. And look at that, those words line up with the 4 letters of the code label. But every keypad in
Let's
the
see
game
how the
is
edges
4
is
number code, not letters.
not
So
rounded,
how does that
so
work? Well,
this
you
should
have
be
to take the
rounded.
number of times each word is
Like
said
this one.
to get
This
the
one I
word
rounded that edge.
letter. In this case,
The
Romeo
sander,
is said
so
6 times, X-ray twice,
Look at that.
Bravo
I like
twice,
that a
and
little bit
Charlie
better.
4 times. 6, 2, 2, 4. That will
That
unlock
kinda
the
looks
next
cute.
part of your path. The second kind of puzzle is found through Olive's room. In one of the rooms is a recorder playing the song Hot Cross Buns.
At least I got something to stick them on now.
Code is ECDC.
Alright, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you for the thumbs up. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night.
Look at the hot cross buns.